Something's wrong with that kid. His head don't work, it never did. You better not cross his path. He's a chain-smoking alcoholic sociopath.
Kevin was on his way to adult prison, and he was scared. Being locked in a cage wasn't what frightened him, since he'd already spent almost half his life in and out of juvenile halls and mental health facilities because of his anger issues and problems dealing with authority. He was scared of the older convicts. They looked pretty mean, and Kevin was intimidated by them. Kevin had heard stories from some of the ex-cons he used to go drinking with when he was 11 that if people weren't afraid of you in jail, then they'd take advantage of you. Just like they did to his old man whenever he was in the joint. Kevin sure didn't like the sounds of that. He figured he'd better make the other inmates afraid of him, right quick. The first thing the lousy screws did to Kevin was to make him and all the other new prisoners take off their clothes and have a group shower. Kevin got as far as taking off his shirt, then he froze with self-conscious fear. He didn't much like the idea of being naked in front of a bunch of other men because of what his father had taught him about people like that.
Bible says homos is wrong.
So instead of taking off his pants, Kevin rushed one of the guards and cranked him a real sweet one in the kidney. Kevin was hoping to put the boots to him, but before he could lift his foot, one of the other guards hit him with his nightstick right in the back of the head. When Kevin came to, he was in a small room with really soft walls, wearing just his underwear. It was the room where they kept the violent sociopaths. Kevin knew this because it looked just like the ones in all the juvenile halls and mental institutions where he'd spent most of his teen years. Kevin sure wished he had some smokes and prescription cough syrup to help pass the time, but since he didn't, he figured he might just as well get some more rest. Kevin curled up and went to sleep. Kevin dreamed about smoking. Then he dreamed about drinking cough syrup. Then he dreamed about smoking and drinking cough syrup. Then he dreamed about what it would be like to be 75 feet tall with chainsaws instead of hands that he could use to lop the heads off of all his betrayers. Kevin had this dream a lot, and it was his favorite, because he was insane. One of the conditions of Kevin's jail time was that he visit the prison psychiatrist 3 times a week. Most prisoners only had to go once. That's because most prisoners were a lot more stable than Kevin.
Good morning, Kevin. My name is Mr. Franklin, and I'm here to help you.
Kevin wasn't much in the mood for any help.
That's good, Kevin. Expressing your emotion is a positive issue-oriented response. In this office, you are free to express whatever is on your mind. There are no barriers and no judgments.
Kevin liked the idea of no barriers and no judgments, and he really liked the idea of expressing whatever was on his mind. Unfortunately for Mr. Franklin, Kevin had been thinking about throwing his coffee mug at him. It was a good thing for Mr. Franklin that Kevin's dad had never played catch with him, or any other game for that matter.
I've studied the court documents from your trial, and despite what the judge, the prosecution lawyers, your parole officer, the teachers and students at your school, and your parents said, I don't think you are a worthless, lost cause. So let's talk about your parents. What kind of people were they?
When Kevin's dad, Percy Spencer, was 18, he enlisted in the Army because he'd been arrested for vagrancy so many times that the judge told him if he didn't get a job, he was going to jail for a good long time.
Up yours, prick.
The old man wasn't much for working, and he didn't have any job skills because he was an alcoholic and had quit school halfway through grade 6 when he turned 16. The first day of boot camp was really hard.
You are all worthless, putrid pieces of scum that have been handed the sorry task of trying to mold into men. Most of you won't last, and the ones that do are gonna hate me anyway.
Shut your hole, I got a headache from drinking.
Percy still had a few things to learn about Army life. After he hit the drill sergeant, they put him in a metal shed out in the middle of a field for 6 hours to try and sweat some sense into him. When the guards opened the door to see if he'd learned his lesson, he kicked one of them right in the crotch and ran towards the fence to escape. But because Kevin's dad had been a heavy smoker since he was 7.5 years old, he only made it halfway to the fence before he had a stroke. While he was recuperating in the hospital, he broke into the medicine cabinet and stole a bunch of morphine and Percodan. Then he went AWOL, sold the drugs to some teenagers, and went on a 3-week drinking binge. Percy had hoped the binge would last longer, but he ran out of money. So he decided to go back to the army base to get a few good nights' rest and to try and steal some more drugs.
I got no money, so F off.
The drill sergeant told him he was being dishonorably discharged. Those were pretty big words for Kevin's old man, and he didn't know what they meant. But just in case they were a come-on, Percy punched the drill sergeant square in the larynx, just so people wouldn't think he was fruity. Then he went to the hospital barracks and stole a bunch of codeine and sleeping pills. That ought to learn the army a thing or two, he thought. Anastasia Blunt had been a rodeo clown groupie ever since she lost her virginity to one when she was 13. She'd spent the last few years following Large Mike's rodeo and rope trick caravan across North America. Large Mike wasn't a very good businessman, and he was down to one clown. One night, the clown got really whacked on 100 proof tequila and decided to tease the bull. A whole lot more than bulls like.
Hey, Bull! You're a stupid goof!
That ain't good thinking.
Because he was so loaded, Happy the rodeo clown couldn't run worth a damn, and the bull caught him and stuck his horn right through Happy's spine. Because the doctor said Happy would never walk again and his days as a rodeo clown were over, Anastasia found herself without a whole lot to do. Percy didn't like having to walk places, especially since his heart attack. But he was too poor to afford a car, and even if he could, he wouldn't be allowed to drive because of his 13 driving while impaired charges and the $4,600 he owed in parking tickets. Still, it was pretty hot out, and Percy figured he was a long way from any cops, so he decided to steal the next car he saw. The chip wagon was the nicest car Percy had ever been in, and the man he'd stolen it from had $27 in his pocket. Percy thought there must be big money in running a chip wagon to have that kind of scratch lying around. To celebrate his newfound freedom, he bought a big jug of wine, ate a handful of the pills he'd stolen, and decided to see how fast a chip wagon could go. Percy wasn't as far away from the cops as he thought. Anastasia was stuck in the middle of nowhere. Large Mike had promised to take her with him if she slept with him, but after he was done, he just laughed and drove away. Anastasia figured she'd have the last laugh, though, because she'd stolen his wallet out of his pants and because Happy had given her syphilis. Anastasia figured she'd hitchhike to Nashville and try and meet some more clowns. That's when Percy drove past. Their eyes locked, and it was love at first sight. Then a bunch of police cars drove past her. Maybe it was just the codeine and wine talking, but Percy was in love. He decided to ask the woman to marry him.
You're so pretty you make a man want to do it regular with you. You in?
I got syphilis.
Who don't?
I'll wait for you, sugar, and I'll see a doctor about my privates.
Don't forget the smoke! Don't forget the smoke!
It was Kevin's second week in adult prison. He was still pretty scared and nervous, but he wasn't alone anymore because his dad had just been sentenced to 2 years less a day for public drunkenness and discharging a firearm within the city limits. And he was in a cell not far from Kevin's.
This here's my boy. Boy, this here's your Uncle Mike and your Uncle Frank. Them 3 guys is Frank's kids. Them others belong to Mike and his wife, even though he ain't but fathered one of them.
Bootlegger fathered the others, because me and the missus ain't had jobs or money for drinking.
How long you in for, boy?
Kevin told his uncles and cousins that he was doing 25 to life. They all laughed at him because he had the longest sentence. Then they took turns telling him what they were going to do when they were free, and he was still in jail. It was a fun get-together. Kevin wanted the good times to continue, but suddenly the exercise yard went silent. There was a new prisoner. His name was Slappy Bigelow. Most people already knew him because he'd only been released 2 weeks earlier. Slappy was the meanest man in prison, and he liked to hurt people and intimidate them, so they would do things for him. Kevin remembered what the ex-cons had said to him when he used to get loaded with them. If people aren't afraid of you in prison, then you'll be in big trouble. Kevin figured he'd better lay down some ground rules right quick so Slappy wouldn't get any ideas. His cousin Louis never saw it coming. Kevin figured since his cousin Louis now had a broken jaw, he wouldn't be needing his smokes. It was the middle of the summer and Percy Spencer was being released from prison. Percy and Kevin's mom had written letters to each other almost every day, which wasn't as big a deal as it might seem because neither one of them knew a lot of words, so the letters were pretty short. Kevin's dad got all his clothes back and the prison warden gave him $50 release money.
I swear I ain't never going back.
My syphilis is gone.
Mine too. You got any smokes?
Yeah?
Come on. It's time you and me done some living.
Percy decided to spend his money on the woman he loved to thank her for all the smokes and illegal liquor she had brought him while he was in jail. $50 doesn't go a long way, and pretty soon they were down to their last $2. Kevin's parents decided to spend the money on Nevada tickets, aiming to win a nice little chunk of pocket change. But all the tickets were losers. So instead of thinking about getting jobs, Kevin's mom faked she was having a stroke. And when the cashier went to help her, Kevin's dad cleaned out the till and took a few packs of smokes, some porno magazines, and a hairbrush and compact set for the woman he loved.
Way better than at least half the women I paid for.
Kevin's mom thought that Percy was calling her a prostitute, so she cuffed him with an empty bottle of wine and told him to get his useless convict ass out of her bed before she phoned the cops and turned him in for ripping off the liquor store. Percy didn't much like being talked to like that, and he aimed to straighten things out. But before he could get to his feet, Kevin's mom caught him with a left hook to the kidney and a real sweet one right in the temple. Percy was already dizzy because he was loaded, and the punches sure didn't help things. He passed out cold. When Percy woke up 2 hours later, his head was in Kevin's mom's lap, and she was crying really hard.
Mama, sorry, babe. I promise I will never hit you again. Mama loves you, sweet. You're still my sugar, ain't you?
You got a smoke?
After Percy cleared his head and smoked a few more cigarettes, he made love to the woman he loved.
Baby, you're better than any rodeo clown I've ever had.
Then he stole the neighbor's pickup truck, drove into town, and ripped off some more booze. Kevin's dad was wrong when he said he was never going back to prison.
Mama will wait for you, sugar.
Bring smokes.
I forgot to tell you, I ain't on the bill.
I ain't supporting no kids. You tricked me, you effing temptress.
Kevin's mom didn't like being called names, so she said that Percy was a dumb unemployed son of a bitch who was too stupid to get a job and support anything. Percy told her to shut her hole and that there were plenty of other women in the world who would be happy to take up with a man like him. Kevin's mom laughed. Then she told the cops about the cash and porno magazines so Percy would get a few extra months tacked onto his sentence. She figured that ought to teach the moron a thing or two.
Don't forget the smoke!
I'm sorry, baby. I love you. Don't take my baby.
Kevin's mom was so upset that she threw a bottle of rye right through the back window of the police cruiser. She was sentenced to 3 months in jail for obstruction of justice. This really made Kevin's dad angry because now there was no one to bring him smokes. It was visiting day at prison and Kevin's mom was excited because she hadn't seen her son and husband in almost a month. She was supposed to visit every week, but because of her drinking, a lot of times she just forgot to go. She had a fresh carton of smokes for Kevin and one for his dad. Uncle Mike and Uncle Frank's wives were there too, and almost all of their kids, except for the ones who were in different prisons. It was the first time Kevin had ever been to a family reunion, and he thought it was really fun. Kevin especially liked the potato sack race and the softball game, even though he struck out every time, and his dad kept laughing and calling him a useless idiot.
Why don't you hit the damn ball and quit embarrassing the family, you stupid effing freak?
That was the kind of thing that would bother most kids, but Kevin was pretty much used to it. After lunch, the women broke open the bottles of liquor they'd smuggled in, and the men took out the bootleg booze they'd made in prison. Everyone got real good and loaded. Kevin wished his mom had brought the cough syrup he'd asked for, but he was happy she just remembered to come at all.
Who's my little cowboy? Who's my cowboy? You are, Kevin. That's who, Slugger, your mama's little cowboy. Oh, Jesus, boy. Why'd you have to be like your useless father? Jesus, boy.
Which one of you dumb son of a bitch convicts want to dance?
Uncle Mike's wife had brought a tape deck. She put in her new Best of TV theme songs cassette and started to dance. Pretty soon, everybody joined in. Kevin didn't really like dancing, but he didn't want to be left out. Uncle Frank asked Kevin's mom to dance. The first song was a fast one, so that was okay. Then a slow song came on, and they started to kiss, because they were both so drunk that they figured no one would notice. They were wrong.
It's showtime!
Kevin's dad jumped on Uncle Frank's back, and they fell to the floor. All of Kevin's relatives started to cheer.
You got a gimp leg, Frank. Kick him in the leg. You got a gimp leg.
Pretty soon, though, it got kind of boring just standing there watching Kevin's dad and Uncle Frank fight, so the rest of them decided to get in on the action and let off some steam. Kevin didn't really have any reason to hit anyone, but that wasn't the kind of thing that had ever stopped him before. He picked up a chair and threw it as hard as he could. Louis never saw it coming. Kevin figured that since Louis's jaw was re-broken, he wouldn't have much use for the smokes he was carrying, or the money in his pocket. Things had worked out so well the first time that Kevin figured he'd throw another chair to see if he couldn't collect enough for a whole carton of smokes. He was itching to smack his old man a good one, but because he was still good and buzzed on bootleg liquor, he missed completely and hit Johnny Felsen. Johnny Felsen was Slappy Bigelow's best friend. After the guards broke up all the fights, they sent everyone home. Kevin's mom said it was the nicest party she'd been to in a long time, and she cried when she left and promised to be back the next week with more smokes. Kevin could hardly wait.
I have to tell you, Kevin, I'm excited. The more I discover of your childhood, the more I am convinced that beneath your troubled exterior lies a young man crying out for the loving embrace of a father figure. Let me be that father figure you never had. Let me play catch with you and teach you how to tie a tie. I want to give you unconditional love.
Kevin didn't understand a lot of the big words, but he pretended he did, so Mr. Franklin wouldn't think he was a moron. Besides, thought Kevin, it was a whole lot safer in Mr. Franklin's office now that Slappy was looking to tear him a new one for hitting his best friend with a chair. Kevin's mom was 8 months pregnant, and it was a big day because her husband was getting paroled.
I ain't got no money, so F off.
You ain't lost your touch, sugar.
You got any smokes? I've been thinking, what, because of the extra child support and me loving you, we ought to get hitched.
I always knew you'd make an honest woman out of me.
You in, Percy?
I sure as hell sweet F&M.
Aw, you're my angel sent from heaven, baby.
So how's about it, Anastasia? You want to unbastard your upcoming bundle of joy?
I do.
Well, I might tell you to kiss her, but it looks like you already got past first base long time ago.
Yeah, first date.
Oh, Jesus! My water broke!
Kevin's mom rushed to the hospital, and his dad went to the liquor store to get a bottle for celebrating. Then he stopped off to buy some lottery tickets, met a guy he knew from prison, and went on a 3-day drinking binge. By the time they met their father, Kevin and his brother were almost 4 days old.
We ain't got room for two. Which one you want to keep?
Kevin was my firstborn. He'll always be special to me. But he don't smile none or make no noise. He just lies there, staring straight ahead.
Kevin's dad figured that not smiling or doing anything was a whole lot easier to look after than a baby who wanted a lot of attention. So they gave the other one up for adoption. Kevin's mom cried so hard when they took the baby away to his new parents that her gin and 7 came out her nose and put out her cigarette. Kevin's dad decided they should all go down to the mall to get more lottery tickets and have a real nice family portrait taken.
Even then you could see he weren't right in the head.
It was the end of Kevin's first month in adult prison, and things were going pretty well so far. The other prisoners pretty much left him alone, mostly because there was a lot of publicity surrounding Kevin's trial, and just about everyone knew he was sociopathically insane. Everyone except Slappy Bigelow. Slappy was pretty sore at Kevin for hitting his best friend in the head with a chair, and figured it was time for Kevin to learn just who was boss. Slappy was really giving it to Kevin. Kevin's imaginary friend, Alan the Magic Goose, told Kevin that he shouldn't let himself be pushed around like that.
Learn him a good one, Kevin.
Kevin really wanted to slug Slappy right in the throat, but Slappy was a whole lot bigger than him. Kevin figured he'd bide his time. Later that day, when all the other prisoners of his cell block were in the common room watching Baywatch, Kevin snuck into Slappy's cell and set it on fire. Kevin figured that ought to learn the ignorant prick a thing or two.
You are a genius, Kevin Spencer, and now you must sleep.
Maybe life in prison wasn't going to be so bad after all. Leastwise not for me, thought Kevin.
Kevin Spencer. Something's wrong with that kid. Kevin Spencer. His head don't work, it never did. Kevin Spencer. You better not cross his path. Kevin Spencer. He's a king smoking alcoholic sociopath. Sociopath. Something's wrong with that kid. Kevin Spencer. His head don't work, it never did. Kevin Spencer. You better not cross his path. Kevin Spencer. He's a chain-smoking alcoholic sociopath.
Jail wasn't so bad, thought Kevin. Especially since he spent most days just sitting around drinking prison-made booze and smoking, which was pretty much all he did when he wasn't in prison anyway. It was Friday, and that meant Kevin had another appointment with Mr. Franklin, the prison psychiatrist. The guard came to get Kevin and take him to Mr. Franklin's office. Kevin didn't much like the looks of him and figured it might be fun to kick him in the sternum, but the guard put shackles on his feet. Guards were quick learners, thought Kevin.
I apologize for the shackles, Kevin, but I'm afraid some of my colleagues remain unenlightened as to the nature of your mental health. It's as if they expect you're just going to suddenly jump up and attack one of them. Now, let's get right back into our last session. You were telling me about Alan.
Kevin was in grade 5. He didn't much care for school, but his mom and dad made him go because the government had passed a law against truancy that could send the parents to jail if they didn't make their kids stay in school. Most of all, Kevin hated gym class. He wasn't very good at sports because he smoked a pack a day and because he was usually pretty cranked on prescription cough syrup and had trouble focusing on objects. Kevin was always the last one picked for every team. One Monday morning, Kevin figured he'd had enough and decided to skip gym class altogether. Instead of going, he hid between some cars in the teacher's parking lot and smoked. Then he finished off the bottle of vodka he'd stolen from his neighbor's liquor cabinet. Pretty soon, Kevin got bored. He thought busting out the taillights and snapping off the aerials on all the teachers' cars might help. Kevin had fun, but when he was done, he was still bored. Kevin thought maybe he might just be lonely. Then something strange happened.
I am the god of hellfire, risen to savage my revenge against all the pitiful souls of those who have betrayed the kingdom of Kevin. Come on, let's set them cars on fire.
Kevin was a little confused. This was the first time any of the things in his head had ever talked to him. Kevin wondered what the goose wanted.
I have risen in servitude as a soldier in the army of glorious vengeance. Retribution shall be ours, says Alan the Magic Goose.
Kevin had never heard of a magic goose before, and because it was all in his head, he wondered if it was just the booze talking.
It ain't just the booze, master. I'm your imaginary friend, which means you're halfway crazy no matter which way you come at it. I'm Alan. Alan the Magic Goose. Now, how's about that fire?
Kevin wasn't sure if he liked the idea of being crazy, but he sure liked the fire idea. Alan was Kevin's very first friend. Kevin had always hoped for a real friend, but none of the other kids his age enjoyed the same things Kevin did, like drinking cough syrup and hitting things. Alan sure did, though. Kevin decided he'd start going back to gym class because Alan told him that if he didn't stand up to the other kids, then he'd have to spend the rest of his life taking crap from people like he was a worthless, dumb piece of trash, just like his dad.
All right, ladies, it's doubles badminton day, so pick a partner.
No one wanted to be Kevin's partner, which was fine by him because he'd already decided to play with Alan. Mr. Carson handed out the badminton rackets. He made a big joke in front of everyone about giving a racket to Kevin's imaginary friend. All the kids laughed.
Fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity, for they shall be cut down like the grass and wither like the green herb.
Kevin wasn't up on his psalms, and he didn't understand a lot of the big words, so he just stood there paralyzed with self-conscious fear. Kevin sure wished he could just fit in, but because he was genetically devoid of the ability to tell right from wrong, that wasn't real likely to happen.
Think fast, Spencer.
That pretty much put an end to wanting to fit in.
Let you and me get it on, crazy man.
Kevin learned a new lesson that day. If you hit people with a badminton racket, they stop teasing you right quick. Kevin also learned that the gym teacher could pick him up all the way off the ground with one hand. Kevin figured some things were more fun to learn than others. The principal suspended Kevin for a week, which was fine by Kevin because that opened up a whole lot more time in his schedule to do the fun things he enjoyed. That night at midnight, Kevin told his parents he was going out for a while. But because they were both already passed out from playing caps, neither one of them heard him. Kevin figured this was for the best, because it also meant they wouldn't hear him going through their wallets and the liquor cabinet. Kevin snuck over to the gym teacher's house to see how many hands it would take for Mr. Carson to put out the garden shed fire Kevin had started to light his smoke.
Superb.
Kevin was in the exercise yard looking at the pictures in a True Detective magazine because he'd never really bothered to learn how to read. Most of the other inmates were lifting weights or playing games because it helped to pass the time.
Watch this, fellas. Think fast, Spencer! I remember when he used to come home crying like a sissy because the kids at school done that to him all the time.
Dad didn't like being shown up in front of his friends. He figured on giving his son one damn holy ass whooping just to straighten things out. But before he could reach the boy, the exercise yard suddenly fell silent. Everyone turned to see what was going on. It was Pete Lefty Wilcox's first day in maximum security prison. He'd been arrested quite a few other times, but because he had multiple personality disorder, he usually served his sentence in a facility for the criminally insane. This time, though, he'd fooled the lawyers and judges into thinking he was cured so he could serve his time in the same prison as Kevin. Pete loved Kevin and had been following him for years because he thought Kevin was the Messiah. Anytime Pete saw something that he felt threatened his savior, he tried to destroy it. Kevin's dad remembered the day he learned that lesson the hard way. Slappy didn't know about Pete either. Slappy was still real upset about having his prison cell set on fire, and he decided he'd knock some sense into Kevin for wrecking his stuff.
Relief Pete!
For someone who thought he was an 18-year-old exotic dancer named Brandy Love, Pete sure could throw a punch. Slappy was out cold before he hit the ground. Kevin's dad laughed so hard he wet his pants, which happened to him a lot because the years of drinking had pretty much destroyed most of the control he had over his bodily functions. The guards came and took Slappy to the prison hospital and then sent all of the other prisoners back to their cells. Everyone was pretty mad at Pete for wrecking their fun, but no one said anything because Pete was so large and violently insane. Kevin liked having Pete around, mostly because Pete would do whatever Kevin and Alan told him to, which meant that Kevin would never have to buy smokes again. As soon as all the other prisoners learned about Pete's devotion, they started treating Kevin a whole lot differently. It was the first time in his life that Kevin had ever been popular, so he decided to exploit the power and seize control of the black market trade in prison. Pretty soon, Kevin was making himself a nice chunk of change. This made Kevin's dad real happy. He figured he'd get a cut because he was family. Kevin wasn't too keen on the idea of sharing his money and smokes, so later that night, he decided to introduce his dad to one of Pete's other personalities, Mistress Esmeralda.
You're a real handsome man, Percy.
Pete Wilcox took a leave of absence from seminary school to join the Vietnam War because he felt it was the least he owed to God and his country. The war was real horrible, and Pete had a lot of difficulty dealing with the senseless bloodletting and the homesickness. Pretty soon, Pete developed several other personalities because of the stress. All the marijuana and LSD probably had something to do with it too, but try telling Pete that. When Pete came home from the war, it seemed like most people weren't too happy to see him.
You murderer! Baby killer!
There will be no tambourine song for you.
Pete spent the next few years drifting aimlessly around the country with his Bible and his fractured mind.
And Paul said unto Jeremiah, you can't put your luggage there because that's where Maurice Chevalier keeps his waffles. And then God smote them all about the head just because he felt like it.
One day, Pete was going through the women's lingerie rack of a discount clothing store looking for an outfit for Brandy to wear to an audition at a local strip joint when he was spotted by a fashion designer. The designer took one look at Pete and offered him a contract to work as a before picture model. A few weeks later, the designer thought it would be really funny to put Pete in a real runway fashion show. The paparazzi loved him, and Vogue magazine declared him a breath of fresh air. Pretty soon, Pete was in demand as a high-priced supermodel.
Gorgeous, Pete! More pout! More pout! Petey's
Tad. Such a Thad boy. Fabulous. The camera's your lover. You haven't seen her in months. She comes closer. Make love to me, Pete. Now is the time you lay me down in the tall grass and do your stuff.
Pete didn't much care for modeling, but he sure liked having all that money. A smart man could have invested what he made and lived off it for the rest of his life. But because Pete was crazy from the war and hooked on weight loss pills, he pretty much blew it all by having his mobile home gold-plated. Then one day, the last thread holding Pete's fragile mind together snapped, and his whole career came crashing down like a cheap house of cards. At first, Pete didn't much care, but then he got to missing the limelight of being a supermodel, so he took the whole staff of a JCPenney outlet hostage at gunpoint and made them watch as he tried on the entire Young Miss Spring line and paraded up and down the aisle of the store. The judge and all the lawyers at his trial agreed that Pete was mentally incompetent and should be locked in an institution for criminally insane violent offenders and put on a constant supply of lithium.
Okay, anyone got a knife I can borrow? Oh, a knife. Okay, come on, anyone. Son of a bitch. Okay, how about some rope? I'll make a deal with you. Whoever gives me the rope, I won't strangle with it. I'm not saying I won't strangle you, just that I won't do it with the rope.
I'm a little teapot, short and stout. Here is my handle, here is my spout. When you heat me up, you hear me shout.
The metal plate in my head is a really big computer chip planted by the government so they can monitor my dreams and prevent me from assuming my rightful place as the all-knowing commander of the universe!
Pete was a little edgy during his first week in the institution because his body was trying to make the transition from a dependency on diet pills to a dependency on lithium. One of his counselors thought it might help if Pete returned to his seminary studies. But because Pete was too jacked up on lithium to focus on the words, one of the orderlies read the Bible to him.
I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, saith the Lord, which is, and which was, and which is to come, the Almighty.
Hi, Jesus Christ, I'm Pete. Most of the time, anyway.
Kevin was pretty sure the big cross-dressing man was even crazier than he was. But because he seemed willing to do whatever Kevin told him to, Alan figured it was a pretty good deal. It was also right around that time that Pete was diagnosed with narcolepsy. Now that Slappy was laid up, Alan commanded Kevin to seize control of the black market trade in prison. Kevin had never been in charge of anything before, and he was kind of nervous. But Kevin found out right quick that people will do just about anything you ask them to, if you're polite and have a violent friend as big as Pete who will do whatever you tell him to because his head doesn't work right and he thinks you're Jesus Christ. Alan told Kevin that from now on, he was calling all the shots.
Name and who you're here to see, please?
Anastasia Spencer, here to see Percy and Kevin Spencer.
Charlie Plunt, shame.
Sign here. I'll have to check your purse, ma'am.
What for?
Contraband, weapons, that type of thing. You as well, sir. Empty your pockets. I'll have to keep this stuff here. You can pick it up on your way out. Have a nice day.
That's it?
All taken care of. Next.
Jeez, who's a lady gotta sleep with to get a cavity search around here? What a ripoff.
Don't tell Kevin you gave me any smoke.
Where's my boy? You keeping an eye on him like I said, ain't you? I don't want to see him falling in with the wrong crowd. He's still young. He's still got his whole life ahead of him.
He ain't no good, that one. His head's broken or something. We should have kept the other one and give him up.
Hey, Percy.
Charlie, you old dog. How's it hanging?
Not too shabby.
You still putting all them notches on your bedpost? Or is old age slowing you down some?
Well, you know, little bit here, little bit there. Adds up some, I guess. How about you? You getting any?
Look, I don't know what Kevin told you about me and that freak Pete.
Kevin sent Mistress Esmeralda for a visit, didn't he?
Mom and Charlie thought this was really funny, and they spent a good long time laughing at Dad.
So, now that you're Pete's bitch, you're gonna want a divorce?
Kevin's old man didn't like to be made fun of, and he aimed to fix the problem right quick. But because he was still so sore, he couldn't move very fast, which was probably for the best, because Kevin and Pete had just walked in, and the old man wasn't in the market for any more punishment.
I hear you're doing real good, boy. I always knew you'd make something of yourself.
Kevin and his mom caught up on old times. Dad was still real mad at Kevin, so he didn't say a word. Kevin didn't much care for the silent treatment, and Dad was really starting to get on his nerves. So he figured he'd bribe the warden and get the old man paroled, just to get him out of his hair for a couple of months, which was pretty much as long as the dumb bastard had ever been able to stay out of prison. Kevin and his dad had joined the Cub Scouts because the court had ordered the old man to start taking better care of the boy and doing more family-oriented things. The judge said if he didn't, Kevin would be removed from his home and placed in foster care.
Where do we sign up?
If Kevin goes, so does your child support from welfare.
The old man didn't like the sounds of that too much because that was the money he'd set aside for lottery tickets and lap dances.
I hope everyone remembered to be prepared. Just a little Cub Scout humor. I'd also like to take this opportunity to welcome our newest father and son. Hopefully they'll find the cubbing experience as rewarding as we all have. This is Percy Spencer and his little boy Kevin.
Daddy, the new man scares me.
Oh, Mr. Spencer, I'm afraid our canoe trip is a no-smoking voyage. Only you can prevent forest fires. All the rules were clearly outlined in the pamphlet.
I ain't never learned how to read.
Oh, that's too bad. So anyway, there's going to be 2 dads and 2 sons in each canoe. We chose to draw numbers to decide everyone's canoe buddies for the first day. So when I call your name, go stand beside the canoe number you're assigned to.
None of the other Cub Scouts or their fathers wanted to be in the same canoe as Kevin and his dad. Eventually they drew straws, and Mr. Peterson and his son Gary lost. Things went pretty well for about 10 minutes. Then Kevin and his dad decided canoeing was too damn much work and kicked back to share a bottle of gin and a smoke.
Dad, Kevin and his dad aren't paddling, and they're smoking too.
Mr. Peterson started to give Kevin's dad a lecture. The old man wasn't much in the mood for a good talking to, so he hit Mr. Peterson in the knee with his canoe paddle. Kevin's old man had really wanted to bust him a sweet one across the head, but he figured if Mr. Peterson was knocked out, then he'd have to paddle. Gary kind of let the whole equal workload issue slide after that. That night they set up camp on a beach beside the lake. Mr. Peterson and Gary set up the Spencer tent because they didn't want to get hit again. Then everyone gathered around the hibachi to cook dinner. It looked like a lot of work, and since Kevin didn't much care for that kind of thing, he was real glad his dad had brought along a bucket of chicken. All the others stared at them like they were idiots, but no one said anything because they all saw how bad Mr. Peterson was limping. After dinner, everyone cleaned up their plates and did the dishes. Kevin and his dad were done first because all they had to do was throw their empty bucket, plastic cutlery, and styrofoam plates into the woods. While they were waiting for the others to finish, they got real good and drilled on the rest of their gin and smoked half a pack of unfiltered cigarettes. When it got dark, the scout leader started a campfire by rubbing 2 sticks together. Kevin's dad thought it was really funny.
Why don't you use a lighter, you yapping bonehead?
Mr. Spencer, I'm going to have to ask you again to please watch your language in front of the children.
Hey, pal, unless you want to be walking like Mr. Peterson, you best shut your hole.
Once the fire was going, everyone sat around roasting marshmallows and taking turns telling scary stories.
And when she got out of the car, she saw that her boyfriend was hanging from a tree, and that noise she heard was his fingernails scraping across the roof of the car.
The police called and told the woman that they had traced the call and that it was coming from inside her house.
That's nothing. You want to hear scary?
Kevin's dad waited until he had everyone's attention, and all you could hear were the crickets. Then he told everyone about the first time he was arrested and strip searched by a border guard.
Well, that's it for tonight. Good night, everybody.
They ain't never gonna learn if you don't tell them.
The next morning, Kevin and his dad slept off their hangovers while all the others packed. When Kevin and his dad finally got up, the scout leader told them that he had decided to cut the trip short and that they were all going home. Kevin was sad because it was the most fun he had ever had in his life. But the old man was real happy because if they hurried, he could still make happy hour at the Pizza Tail Lap Dancing Emporium.
Kevin Spencer.
Something's wrong with that kid.
Kevin Spencer.
His head don't work, it never did.
Kevin Spencer.
You better not cross his path.
Kevin Spencer.
He's a king smoking alcoholic. Something's wrong with that kid.
Kevin Spencer.
His head don't work, it never did. You better not cross his path. He's a chain-smoking alcoholic sociopath.
When Kevin was in grade 6, the school nurse sent him to the dentist because his parents had never gotten around to it, and because almost all of his teeth were riddled with cavities and really stained from all the cough syrup and nicotine.
Mr. Spencer!
Kevin thought the dental hygienist was prettier than all the prostitutes his dad had ever brought home put together.
Hop on up here, sport, and Dr. Melthorpe will be in to see you shortly.
Kevin's parents had never read to him or put puzzles together with him or anything else that required Kevin to concentrate much. So after about a minute, Kevin got real bored because he had no attention span. Kevin thought there were a lot of really neat-looking things in the room. He decided to steal what he could and play with the rest of it. Kevin heard footsteps running towards his room. He wasn't done stealing stuff yet, so he figured he'd better hop back in the chair so he wouldn't get caught.
Is everything all right in here, Kevin? Now, you be a good boy and stay in the chair, and don't touch anything. Some of the equipment in here can be very dangerous.
Hey, Psycho! Even if you were older, she'd never go out with you. I'll bet she's laughing at you right now because she thinks you're afraid of all the dangerous stuff.
If you want her to respect you, go figure out what that mask is for.
Kevin wasn't so sure that was a good idea. The hygienist had looked pretty serious.
Come on, boy! What the hell has she ever done for you?
Please, Kevin, go try on the mask for me. Please.
Come to think of it, thought Kevin, she never had done jack squat for him.
Damn straight. Now come on, let you me get it on, crazy man.
The mask was hooked up to a big canister of laughing gas. The gas made Kevin feel real lightheaded, but because he was a sociopath who was born without the ability to feel emotion, Kevin didn't even break a smile. Alan sure had a good time, though. The screaming dental hygienist snapped Kevin back to reality right quick. While the hygienist held his arms, Dr. Melthorpe yanked the mask right off Kevin's face and turned off the canister of laughing gas. Alan was sad to see the good times end.
Ah, crap.
Damn you and damn your teeth and gums. You can rot in hell with the non-flossers.
Kevin spent the rest of the morning in a nearby park drinking with some hobos and runaways. He was still pretty mad at the dentist for embarrassing him in front of the hygienist and ruining any chance he had of marrying her.
Straighten things out.
Kevin figured he'd straighten things out, so that night he broke into the dentist's office and got himself good and jacked up on laughing gas. He figured that ought to learn Dr. Melthorpe a thing or two. Then he broke a bunch of the machines and carved his father's name into the wall, figuring that the cops would bust his old man and get the useless prick out of his hair for a few months. Kevin was about to leave when he found the medicine cabinet with a bunch of little bottles with rubber tops. Kevin knew that the rubber tops were used to fill needles because he recognized them from the daily doses he used to get when he was in the mental institution. Kevin didn't know what Novocaine was, but he figured if you take enough of anything, it's bound to do something to you. Kevin figured he'd better get out of there before the cops came, but because he'd frozen all his limbs in his head, he couldn't move a muscle. This really upset Kevin because he couldn't lift his arms to light his smoke.
Oh my lord!
Do you think he's dead?
Dr. Melthorpe called the police. It took the two cops about 10 minutes to wake Kevin up. Because Kevin was so young and really groggy and disoriented, neither of the cops expected him to come up swinging. Kevin landed a couple of real sweet left hooks before one of the cops cuffed him across the back of the head and put him in handcuffs. When the police phoned Kevin's parents from the juvenile hall to tell them what had happened, Kevin's dad laughed so hard that he woke up the hooker.
Oh, what's so funny?
My dumb boy. Don't matter how many times you tell him the rules of life, it just don't sink in on account of his effing head's broken. If you're stealing drugs or booze, don't take it while you're still in the building you broke into. Go find a park or something.
A lot had gone on during the 2 weeks Kevin was in psychiatric isolation. The prisoners had formed a union because they weren't happy with their food, living conditions, and basic cable package. Everyone was tense, and the prison warden was afraid that a riot might break out. Kevin didn't much give a damn, since the living conditions were better than they were at his house, and their TV hadn't worked in 9 years. But Kevin went along with everyone because he wanted to fit in, and because the whole riot idea sounded like fun.
Everyone shut the damn well up, or I'll gut stab you with my shiv. We're here to elect a union president. I nominate Slappy Bigelow. Before Slappy gives his speech, I'd just like to take this opportunity to say that if anyone opposes the nomination, I'll gut stab them with my shiv.
Slappy had returned from the prison hospital while Kevin was in isolation. Slappy was still pretty sore from the beating Kevin's best friend Pete Wilcox had laid on him. He was plenty angry as well. Slappy had heard about Kevin taking control of the black market trade while he was in the hospital, and Slappy aimed to set things straight so he'd be the big shot again.
Nice to see all you folks again. As your union representative, I'll take affirmative action and work in conjunction with the ward and the penal system as a whole in my endeavor to improve living conditions. I'll demand an increase in wages for the laundry and machine shop guys up to $1.50 a day. This increase will cover almost all my kickback money, leaving the working man with more disposable income for smokes and subscriptions to the porno magazines of his choice.
Sweet.
I will table the initiative to have the number of conjugal visits moved up from once every 3 months to 10 times a week. Ooh. For those of you who haven't yet found a desperate pen pal or who don't have a legion of groupies attracted to their twisted celebrity because of the heinous nature of their crime, I'll see if I can get some hoes. I will also demand that the warden subscribe to the Me TV package, giving us access to 16 new channels that can only enrich our lives and aid in our rehabilitation. Now on the subject of bootleg liquor.
The other inmates seemed really excited by Slappy's ideas. This yanked Kevin's chain because he really enjoyed all the extra cash and stuff he got from controlling the prison. Normally, no one would have sided with Slappy because Kevin's friend Pete would have knocked them 3 ways sideways. But Pete was still in the psychiatric ward for holding down the guard Kevin attacked, and because he thought he was a border collie and kept trying to herd the other prisoners like sheep. Kevin figured he'd better do something right quick, so he snuck out of the meeting and went back to the cell block. Kevin went through all the other prisoners' cells and stole their porno magazines, smokes, and family pictures. He kept a few of the nice ones for himself, and then hid the rest in Slappy's cell. Kevin figured that ought to straighten things out. Kevin was getting pretty close to puberty, and because his old man didn't want him turning gay, he decided to take the boy on a hunting trip to learn how to kill things.
This here's the trigger. All you gotta do is just keep pulling it and pointing the gun. Me, I find it helps to swing the barrel around a lot so you make sure you hit something. That's why we use automatic weapons.
Keep it to Christ down. Oh, Jesus, Boise. You remembered our effing anniversary.
Don't let no one ever tell you I don't love your old lady. Now here, you practice while I tear a quick one off with your mother. Top me up, Bill.
Geez, we ought to do this more than once a year.
Guns, booze, and no bras. You tell me this ain't the high life, and I'll kick your ass clean off.
Top me up, Bill.
Effing you, I cut me off. The prick said I ain't made no effort to find a job.
Ain't no jobs there for a man who wants to do an honest day's work, because the immigrants took them all. That's why I ain't had no job for 7 years.
How old's your boy, Percy?
I don't know. 10, 12 maybe?
Yeah, it's time he learned some hunting.
Make him a man is what it's gonna do.
Damn straight. Top me up, Bill. Nice shot, Bill. All right, boy. The first thing you do whenever you go hunting is sleep off all the booze you drank driving up to camp. See you in the morning. Good job, boy. You keep practicing.
Kevin had stayed awake all night because he was scared by all the strange new sounds around him, and because every couple of hours, one of his dad's friends would wake up to go to the bathroom and fire off a few rounds just for kicks. Kevin's dad and his friends woke up just before noon and settled in to have a big breakfast and some Boilermakers just to take the edge off. Kevin was pretty excited. He was really looking forward to sneaking through the woods, trying to find things to shoot. He told everyone how excited he was. Dad and his friends all laughed.
Ain't you taught the boy nothing, Percy?
He's young yet, and his head don't work right besides. That's why he's always in and out of the nut house.
Good thing you brought him along so we can learn him a thing or two. Make sure the boy grows up normal.
Kevin's old man and his friends told Kevin that hiking through the woods carrying all the guns and stuff was too much like work. And if they wanted to work, then they'd have jobs.
Trick is to let the animals do the work for you. That's what separates us from them. We're smart.
Phil and Charlie set up 4 lawn chairs in front of the cabin while Kevin's dad moved the fridge outside so they wouldn't have to get up for more beer.
Deers like salt, so the trick is to make a really big pile that they can't resist.
If all you gotta do is sit in the chair and wait for them to come, you can get a lot more drinking done than if you had to go through the woods and try and find them.
Look at this, boy. Watch how high Phil can jump.
Mind you don't break my beer, you stupid things!
It was almost 4 in the afternoon and not a single deer had shown up. Kevin was pretty disappointed. The other guys didn't seem to mind as much, but Kevin figured that was because they'd been hunting plenty of times before and were used to it, and because they were all so loaded that they'd pretty much forgotten why they were there anyway.
Hey, Percy! $10 says you can shoot the side mirror of the car.
Good thing the car's stolen. I'd hate like hell for that to be mine.
Don't look like no deer are coming. Let's go into town and get some prostitutes.
Kevin's dad said he'd have to stay behind because he was just a kid and because he only had enough money for one hooker. Kevin had nothing else to do, so he decided to have a few drinks and practice his marksmanship. But pretty soon he got bored shooting stuff that didn't move.
Ostriches are your dad's favorite animal.
Kevin figured he'd straighten things out right quick, so he hitchhiked 70 miles to explore Ed's Safari World and whacked an ostrich in only 47 shots. Kevin figured he could have it stuffed and give it to his dad for Father's Day.
Aha! Now we're making progress. Do you see, Kevin? Killing the ostrich was a cry for help. On the one hand, because of your father's abandonment, your ego sought revenge by destroying something he loved. Yet, on the other hand, the very act of destroying was in your mind a step towards reconciliation. That was your aid at work. Directing an act whereby you could present your father with a gift of his favorite animal in the hope that he would in turn grant you the affection and love you wanted.
Mr. Franklin sure liked to use a lot of big words. Kevin wasn't very good with big words, so instead of paying attention, Kevin just nodded his head up and down like he was listening and thought about all the good times he was going to have when he got out of prison.
Boy, it sure gets hot doing your taxes all day.
Yes it does. Because you were so hot. Why don't you take off your shirt while I discuss something with my maid over by the couch?
I am very hot as well. I think I will take my shirt off also.
We are all hot. It is also very hard work, working as an assistant tax auditor.
Then you should take your pants off. I will take mine off as well, so you won't feel uncomfortable.
I think that will make me hotter.
Because Kevin liked the fictional world in his head a whole lot more than reality, he figured he was real lucky to be doing 25 to life, because that left him plenty of thinking time.
Come on! Daddy needs a new carton of smoke. Take him in the head, you dumb bastard! Take him in the head! Chickens are so stupid!
Kevin and Alan sure had some good times together. Kevin remembered when he was younger and he thought everyone had an imaginary friend and that everyone could see Alan as well. He also remembered the day he learned that wasn't true and that his brain didn't work like the other kids' brains did. It was the second week of grade 5. Kevin thought he was the coolest guy in school because he was bigger than all the other kids and because this was his third time in grade 5, so he figured he'd know more and be a lot smarter than his classmates, except for the ones who could read. The first week of school had gone by really quickly because Kevin had skipped it and stayed at home smoking and watching Showgirls over and over again with his dad. Kevin figured if he sat at the back of the room, Mrs. Kilborn wouldn't see him and he wouldn't be called on to answer any questions. It would have been a pretty good plan if Kevin wasn't a foot taller than everyone else.
I'd like everyone to welcome our new student back for another kick at the can, Kevin Spencer.
Not many of the kids waved or looked at him because they all remembered him as the bully from last year who'd beaten most of them up at one time or another because the people he really wanted to hit were a lot bigger than him. It was only 5 minutes past 9, and Kevin was already bored because he'd lost track of the lesson plan on account of his hangover and his short attention span.
Hello, is Kevin home? It's me, Alan. Alan, the magic goose. Can Kevin come out to play? Hello?
Kevin wanted this to be his last year of grade 5, so he tried to force Alan out of his head and concentrate on what the teacher was saying.
I've got cough syrup and smokes. And 2 front row tickets to Showgirls. Ooh, look. Elizabeth Berkeley's shirt got wet, and she doesn't have a clean one. I wonder what she's gonna do.
Kevin figured a few minutes of showgirls wouldn't hurt him if he buckled down afterwards and focused really hard on his studies.
That's it for today, kids. Remember your homework. Neatness counts. Also, the 3 students whose turn it is for show and tell tomorrow are Debbie Murphy, John Brooks, and Kevin Spencer.
Kevin had forgotten all about show and tell, just like he had the last 2 years. That night at the dinner table, he asked his parents if they had any ideas about what he could bring.
Hey, I know. Why don't you parade your useless, unemployed arsehole of a father in front of your class? You can show all the kids what impotence and no job skills looks like.
Hey, boy. Anyone in your class ever asked what a washed-up rodeo clown groupie looked like after it gains about 100 pounds? 'Cause, brother, have I got a specimen for you.
Kevin figured that the next time he wanted some advice, he'd wait until his parents were done fighting. That night, Kevin lay in bed with his stomach full of butterflies. He really wanted the kids in his class to like him, and he figured it would help a lot if he brought something for show and tell that was really cool and impressed them. It was a little after 2 in the morning when it came to him. Kevin had thought of the perfect thing to bring. He slept really soundly for the rest of the night.
Thank you, John. Your grandfather's Purple Heart and the story of his courage will inspire us all for years to come.
Kevin was really happy. He was sure that what he brought would impress the kids way more than a medal. He just hoped it would be better than what Debbie had brought. He was pretty nervous, but the cough syrup helped.
Debbie, you may begin.
These are so my friends. The prefabricated one-hit wonders. And the same thing only with girls. And that guy over there is the NBA scoring champion. But he's hard to see because he's behind the Archbishop's big hat. Any questions?
Debbie's turn had lasted for over 2 hours because the kids and Mrs. Kilborn were so excited and had so many questions. After things finally calmed down, Mrs. Kilborn sent everyone out for recess and told Kevin they would begin with his show and tell subject when everyone returned. Debbie had really pulled out all the stops. Kevin was really nervous, so during recess he knocked back half a bottle of prescription cough syrup and killed a few smokes just to take the edge off. By the time everyone returned to class, Kevin was pretty loaded and he was feeling real confident.
Kevin, you may begin.
Kevin was loaded more than he thought because he fell a few times on his way up to the front of the class. When he finally got there, he turned around to face everyone and was about to begin speaking when he suddenly froze up with self-conscious fear. What if they don't like it, thought Kevin. Part of him wanted to run away and never come back, but Kevin knew if he did this, he would just end up dumb and unemployed like his father. Kevin decided to take a deep breath and go for it. He stepped off to one side and with a big dramatic sweep of his arm, he introduced Alan the Magic Goose. Kevin told everyone about his friend Alan and about all the good times they had together going to illegal cockfights and massage parlors. Because Kevin was so wired up on cough syrup, he didn't notice all the kids laughing at him right away. Then Mrs. Kilborn stepped in.
That will be quite enough, young man. I suppose you think this is funny. Well, just you wait until I tell your parents. I bet they won't be laughing.
It was a good thing Mrs. Kilborn hadn't put money on it.
Ah, Jesus, that's funny. I wish I could have seen it. Hi, my name is Kevin, and this is the ghost that lives in my head. None of you can see him, though, because you're all sane.
His head's broken. Has been since he come out.
I really don't think your attitude is helping matters.
Look at me, everybody. I'm the magic goose.
Kevin sure didn't like the way all his classmates and parents had laughed at him, so he decided that he'd slash all the tires on Mrs. Kilborn's car because she was the one who made him do show and tell. Kevin figured that ought to straighten things out.
Kevin
Something's wrong with that kid.
Kevin Spencer.
His head don't work, it never did.
Spencer.
You better not cross his path.
Kevin Spencer.
He's a chain-smoking alcoholic sociopath.
It was Wednesday afternoon, and Kevin had another appointment with Mr. Franklin, the prison psychiatrist. Kevin had more appointments with Mr. Franklin than any other inmate in the prison. Kevin's dad said that was because his head was a whole lot more broken. They were meeting in a new office this week because Kevin had shown up for his last appointment with a head full of glue and had set Mr. Franklin's old office on fire. Kevin set a lot of fires because his imaginary friend Alan the Magic Goose told him it would make him popular with the other inmates. Alan forgot to tell him how the warden and guards felt about fires. Kevin sure wished he had remembered, because he didn't much like getting hit with nightsticks and flashlights.
You seem to both desire to fit in with the crowd, yet you constantly undermine that goal by a pattern of aggression towards them. I suspect your fear of rejection by your peer group overrides your desire to become one of them, causing you to subconsciously sabotage yourself. It's a classic case of low self-esteem, manifesting itself in self-destructive behavior. That tells me that deep down, you believe yourself unworthy of the friendship and camaraderie you so desperately seek.
Blah, blah, blah. Hey, Sacco, I dare you to set his desk on fire.
Remember our little talk, Kevin? Setting fires is a wrong thing to do. A wrong thing. Now, having just read Sally Jesse Raphael's new book, Finding the Rainbow Within, I've decided that you would benefit from group therapy. In the meantime, I feel it would be a good use of our time to continue one-on-one to try and get to the root of your anger issues.
The drapes, Kevin, the drapes.
Wrong thing, Kevin! Wrong thing!
Kevin was 10 years old, and he'd just been caught shoplifting smokes and lottery tickets for his parents and some comic books and cough syrup for himself. It was the 24th time Kevin had been arrested. Kevin's mom and dad weren't too happy because that meant they were going to have to do without smokes until their next child support check came through.
Given the lengthy record of the defendant and his refusal to express remorse, the prosecution requests that Your Honor impose the maximum penalties allowed under the law.
Before I sentence you, Kevin, is there anything you wish to say to this court?
Tell him his wife was the worst hooker you ever paid for, and you want your money back.
The judge was pretty angry at Kevin for calling his wife a prostitute. Kevin's mom thought it was really funny, though, and she laughed so hard that she started to hyperventilate and passed out and banged her head on a chair. Kevin's dad thought this was even funnier, and he laughed so hard that he wet his pants. Kevin's dad wet his pants a lot because the years of drinking had pretty much wrecked his liver and bladder.
Rather than sending you to a juvenile facility, I've opted to sentence you to 3 months of community service on a government-subsidized farm. I would also recommend that your mother and father enroll in a parenting class and that upon your release, you all attend meetings with a family therapist.
My head ain't busted, you effing a-hole.
Jeez Louise, Judge. Welfare don't hardly cover bingo and booze. We ain't got no money for fixing the boys' mentals.
This is your son we're talking about. I suggest you start taking his development seriously. He'll never amount to anything if you two degenerates refuse to become better role models.
Kevin's old man wasn't in the mood for a lecture. He figured he'd show that judge a thing or two, so he took the bottle of wine from his coat pocket, finished the little bit that was left, and threw the bottle right at the judge.
Ah, Jesus. Not again. I'll wait for you, sugar. Mama loves you.
Kevin had never been on a farm before, and he was pretty excited. The man who ran the farm said his name was John McCaffrey, but that his friends called him Chewy because he chewed so much tobacco. Kevin thought Chewy was the coolest person he'd ever met. That night in his bunk, Kevin decided he'd try chewing some tobacco. Chewy hadn't explained the difference between cigarette tobacco and chewing tobacco to Kevin. Kevin threw up for 6 hours. He finally fell asleep at 5 in the morning.
Wake up, Spencer! There's chores need doing, and you're the one what's doing them.
Kevin didn't much like the thought of getting up. He wasn't used to waking up early because his parents didn't have jobs and usually slept until noon, and because they'd pawned the alarm clock for money to bet at the track.
Fill the trough and mind your step. Pigs nearly trampled the last boy to death, and he was bigger than you. When you're done that, go fill this basket with eggs from the chicken barn. And don't break none, because that's your breakfast. That and a bowl of hot milk straight out of that cow's dirty tits. I'm going to be on the chair on the porch having a chew. Giddy up, go, delinquent.
Kevin really wanted to impress Chewy, so he decided he'd try extra hard to feed the pigs properly. The pigs didn't seem to care much that Kevin was new at this, and they kept knocking him down.
You don't gotta take that. Show them pigs who's boss. Hit a pig, boy. Hit a pig.
Kevin was pretty sure hitting one of the pigs wouldn't go over too well with Chewy. So he figured he'd bide his time and take it out on the chickens when he was in the barn and Chewy couldn't see him.
Eat fast, kid. You got 7 miles of fence to put in. Half a mile a day gets you supper. You get more done, I'll see what I can do about an extra blanket. Listen, Ed, and you'll be wishing you were back with the pigs.
Kevin was itching to crank Chewy a real sweet one in the stomach, but because Chewy would likely clean his clock if he did, Kevin figured he'd wait until Chewy was asleep before he learned him a good one.
Time's up, punk. You pick up where the last boy left off. You need anything, I'll be in my chair having a chew.
Kevin had never built a fence before, but he had a pretty good idea how they went together because he'd spent so much time in cages and juvenile detention centers. The first hole he dug wasn't deep enough, and the fence post kept falling over. Kevin wasn't sure what to do. Then he remembered something his father had taught him.
Government will pay you for not working, so screw it.
So Kevin quit and decided to kick back and have a smoke and get good and drilled on the cough syrup he'd snuck along to help pass the time.
Let the good times roll, baby.
After a couple of hours of good times, Kevin ran out of cough syrup and was down to his last 2 smokes. He had another pack back at the house, but he wasn't too keen on seeing Chewy.
Farming's for jerks anyway. Let you and me steal the tractor and get some booze and go. Nice shooting, Tex.
Kevin was pretty sure you weren't allowed to drive a tractor in the city, and even if you were, he'd still be too young to do it anyway. But then if he was the kind of kid that paid attention to rules and laws, he wouldn't be there in the first place. So Kevin figured, what the hell? Driving a tractor in the city was a lot harder because there were a lot more things to hit, like drugstores, for instance. Kevin figured since he was there anyway, he might just as well help himself to more cough syrup. Kevin took a little too long helping himself and drank a little too much while he was doing it. The judge wasn't too happy about seeing Kevin back in court so soon. He was even less happy when Kevin waved hello. Kevin was sentenced to 8 months in a juvenile detention center, which was okay by him because he figured it would be a hell of a lot easier then digging a bunch of holes for fence posts.
I'd like everyone to welcome our newest member. This is Kevin Spencer. Kevin, this is Willie Brown, and, well, I guess you know the rest of them, being family and all.
Hey, boy!
What's doing, Kev?
Why don't we pick up where we left off last week? Mike, you were telling us about your anger problems.
You're damn right I was. Booze makes it hard for me to control my temper.
Me too.
Ditto, muchacho!
Yeah, but my temper's way worse than yours.
That's crap, you moron.
Ain't none of you got nothing on me when it comes to temper.
The hell I don't, arsehole.
You want a piece of me, you greasy bastard?
Yes, Phil, I did say it was good to vent your anger. However, there's a right way to vent your anger and a wrong way to vent your anger. How about instead of discussing issues of anger, we instead focus on ways in which to control anger? Kevin, perhaps you'd like to speak on your...
Public speaking made Kevin nervous, but because he didn't want all his relatives to think he was chicken, Kevin decided to tell them about the first time he underwent court-ordered shock treatment.
Everyone, we have a special treat this week. This is Elizabeth Armstrong, and she's brought her crystals. She's going to help us talk through our issues of alienation and hostility and offer some constructive criticism that will help us all develop into better people. We're very fortunate to have a woman of her expertise. Her list of credentials is awe-inspiring, including 3 years as a researcher for Oprah, 5 years as an associate producer on the Ricky Lake Show, and 2 years as a staff writer at Hallmark Cards. Miss Armstrong.
Hi, everyone. I'd just like to say that it rejuvenates my aura just being here. I am certain that by the end of today's session, we will all have taken a big step towards finding our inner ocean. I'd like to start with a breathing exercise, and then we'll take turns shifting the blame for our individual problems to society and your parents.
Kevin thought Miss Armstrong was the prettiest girl he'd ever seen. He decided he loved her. Kevin really wanted to ask her out.
Me, I figure it was because my dad was always working. He didn't have time for me when I was a kid. So when I turned 16, I quit school and I robbed a bunch of gas stations. I don't figure I'll never change.
Never say never, Slappy. Remember, today is the first day of the rest of your life.
She's hot for you, crazy man. Ask her out.
First time I got arrested was for beating up some kid and stealing his bike. But you know, like you watch TV all the time and, you know, look in stores and whatever, and it's like there are bikes everywhere. And I didn't have one, you know. They shouldn't have been teasing me like that.
That is good, Philip. The first step towards rehabilitation is the willingness to accept your portion of responsibility in your crimes. We all have our own bicycles to deal with, don't we? That is right. That is very good. Keep breathing and visualizing. Now, Kevin, would you like to share?
Kevin froze in self-conscious fear. He wanted to tell Miss Armstrong how pretty he thought she was, but he couldn't say a word.
Jesus, my boy's got it for you bad, Miss Armstrong. He always gets like that when he likes a girl, but he's too damn scared to do nothing.
Kevin and Elizabeth sitting in the tree. K-I-S-S-I-N-G. First come love, then go.
Bravo! Now ask her out, lunatic.
Perhaps that will be enough for today.
Guards! Guards!
Kevin took a deep breath. He figured this was the only chance he would ever have. So before the guards took him away, Kevin asked Miss Armstrong if she would marry him. The guards burst out laughing, and so did Miss Armstrong.
Even if I were stupid enough to date a convict, it sure as hell would not be you.
That night, Kevin sat in his cell feeling sorry for himself and drinking some contraband booze. He was really embarrassed by what Miss Armstrong had said, so he figured he'd break out of prison and get real jimmied up on prescription cough syrup.
Kevin, I'm curious about your allegiance to your imaginary friend Alan. It seems as though he has a hold on your psyche that effectively establishes a master-slave relationship, wherein you feel powerless to say no to his commands. I think it would benefit us both if we were to further explore your relationship with Alan and your subconscious desire to please him.
Kevin was released from the Juvenile Detention Center 2 months early and ordered to perform 1,200 hours of community service by working as a greeter for a department store. It was the first job Kevin had ever had, and he was really nervous. So before he went in, he drank 2 bottles of prescription cough syrup and had a few smokes, just to take the edge off.
You're late, idiot. If it happens again, you'll find your sorry ass back in the joint quicker than you can say Jim Dandy. Put on this tie, go stand by the front door and make nice.
Kevin stood by the front door and said hello to the first few customers. He really wanted to do a good job, but not as much as he really wanted to get some more cough syrup. Kevin figured it was about time for his break anyway, so he decided to wander around the store and maybe steal some things he liked.
You might want to think about a blazer to go with that top and, a television set.
It was family day at the department store, and they were having a big Mother Goose in-store promotion.
Idiot kids climbing all over me.
You're the one who drank yourself out of the children's party circuit, so quit your bitching!
Look, it's hotter than Hades in this frickin' thing. I spent damn near my whole break trying to take a leak.
You should try walking a mile in these shoes.
Break's over, losers. Get your asses back out there and make the kids happy. Sell, sell, sell. Get the little bastards harping at their parents for new toys. Tell them their parents promised you they'd buy the kids whatever they wanted. If that don't work, tell them you're dying and you need the money for a life-saving operation. Tears equals sales. Giddy up, go!
Kevin was hiding behind a rack of clothes having a smoke when the man dressed as Mother Goose came out of the back room. Maybe it was just the cough syrup talking, but when Kevin saw the man putting his goose head back on, he got real scared. Kevin figured the man was evil and had taken over Alan's soul. Kevin didn't much like the thought of somebody taking over Alan's soul and living inside his body, so he figured he'd straighten things out right quick.
Hey kids, look at all these neat toys. I sure wish I could play with them forever, but that probably won't happen because I have necrotizing fasciitis and I'm gonna die unless I sell enough of them to afford medical help. You don't want the big fun goose to die, do you?
Kevin waited until the goose had his back turned to him and was talking to all the kids. Then he snuck up behind him really quickly and smacked him a real sweet one on the back of the head with an arm he'd taken off a mannequin. The goose never saw it coming, and his head came right off. All the kids screamed. Kevin figured this was because they all realized an evil man had taken over Alan's soul. Kevin was wrong. All the kids were screaming because they weren't used to seeing their favorite storybook characters violently assaulted. The police came and took Kevin away and put him back in the Juvenile Detention Center. Kevin wasn't too happy about being back in juvie, but he figured it was all worth it in the long run, because he'd saved his friend Alan the Magic Goose. It had taken Pete almost 2 weeks to dig the escape tunnel. It would have gone faster if Kevin had helped, but Kevin didn't much like the thought of working. And besides, he thought, because Pete was crazy and thought that Kevin was Jesus Christ, He pretty much did everything he was told to anyway.
I was thinking, you being omnipresent and all, isn't it kind of meaningless them locking you up?
Kevin didn't know what omnipresent meant, so instead of answering the question, Kevin threatened to send Pete to hell if he didn't shut up and dig faster. That always got Pete to work harder.
Brokenhead, let you, me, and the big crazy freak get some booze and girls.
Kevin and Pete decided to go to Big Al's house of simulated coitus. Kevin knew how to get there because his dad used to make him drive him there all the time because he'd lost his driver's license after his 14th driving while impaired charge.
Ah, jeez, look at that. She ain't got no rhythm. You call that stripping?
Kevin had forgotten that one of Pete's personalities was an 18-year-old stripper named Brandy Love. Pete jumped up on the stage and scared the other girl away. Then Pete started to dance and take his clothes off. The other people in the bar weren't too happy about that, but no one said anything because Pete was so big and it was pretty obvious he was insane. Kevin figured he'd better go before the cops came, so he stole all the tip money from a few tables and snuck out the back door.
Shut your hole, you unemployed son of a bitch, and give me a smoke.
Get your own damn smokes, fatty.
Kevin's mom didn't like to be teased about her figure. She was about to learn Dad a thing or two when Kevin walked into the kitchen. Kevin hadn't seen his parents since his father's parole hearing 2 weeks ago, and he was really happy.
You got any smokes, boy?
Everyone was real happy to see each other, so they decided to celebrate. Mom was already pretty tanked when Kevin had shown up, so she didn't celebrate for too long. That night, while his parents were sleeping, Kevin figured he'd help himself to some of the old man's booze. The next morning, while Kevin's dad was fixing breakfast, he found out that Kevin had stolen his booze. The old man was really cheesed off, so he phoned the cops and turned Kevin in.
Kevin Spencer.
Something's wrong with that kid.
Kevin Spencer.
His head don't work, it never did.
Kevin Spencer.
You better not cross his path.
Kevin Spencer.
He's a king smoking alcoholic sociopath.
Aldi's organic tomatoes are less than €1. Now we could show them to you like this, but that's gonna put the price up. Okay, you'd like to see someone eating them. Again, that's going to cost. Whoa, how much are that lot costing? Right, so you really like the funny dance, but you want them sold in wicker baskets in a sort of, pretend farmer's market, is it? With a fully qualified cheesemonger. Sure, why not? And the option of buying a suede jacket. Yeah, that's crucial. What even is this? A weekly shop or a full day out? And who's paying for all of this? Ah, yes. You are. Look, if you like all that stuff, there is another supermarket you'll love. But if you, like us, believe the good life is pretty simple, then boy, do we have a tin of organic tomatoes for you. Aldi. It's not complicated.
You won't remember my name. This is the last time you will see me at the top. My doubts will destroy my dreams. The more I seem to learn, the more I seem to lose. I want to carry on, but not today. This is the point I give up. But not today. I want to carry on. more I seem to lose, the more I seem to learn. My dreams will destroy my doubts. You will see me at the top. This is the last time you won't remember my name.
After the Colonel made his hot and spicy wings, he needed the perfect pairing. So he invented the potato. No need to look that up, it's true. The Colonel lived so we could chicken. Backed by obsessive demand, KFC Wings and Witches.
Something's wrong with that kid. His head don't work, it never did. You better not cross his path. He's a chain-smoking alcoholic sociopath.
Kevin wasn't allowed to smoke in Mr. Franklin's office anymore because he kept burning holes in the couch and trying to set the room on fire.
Call me curious, Kevin.
Kevin decided to call him something else. Mr. Franklin didn't like being called names, but he let it go because he didn't like getting hit a whole lot more.
Attaboy, Kevin. Wreck the couch.
Were there any experiences in your childhood that made you glad to be Kevin Spencer?
Kevin's mom and dad threw a surprise party for his 15th birthday. The biggest surprise was that Kevin had already been 15 for 7 months, but because he'd been locked up in juvenile detention, they said it was the first time they could all get together. Kevin had written his parents from solitary asking for some gloves and a crossbow, but instead they decided to give him nothing because they'd spent all their money on Richie Starr's motivational videotapes. The tapes worked because Percy was so motivated, he drank, smoked, and weighed almost 3 times as much as he did since the last time Kevin had seen him.
Happy birthday, boy. Have one of Daddy's smokes. Oh, wait, it's my last one. Never mind. Catch you next year.
You can have first sip, Kevin.
Kevin's dad gave him all the birthday cards he'd received from relatives.
We opened them all, but there weren't no money. Honest.
Kevin was pretty unhappy, but then he got to thinking that no matter what they got him for his birthday, he would have pawned it to buy smokes and cough syrup anyway, so this just cut out the middleman.
Mama wants to dance, boy. Jesus hates Sugar Plum. You're the apple of my damn eye, you are. Tell Mama you love her. Come on, Kevin, sweetie. Tell Mama.
She holds her booze worse than her mother. Come on, boy. Let's me and you paint this son of a bitch town red. You gotta drive on account of my suspension.
Before they left, they stole all of Mom's cigarettes and the $17 she had in her purse. Kevin was pretty excited. He hadn't been out drinking with his dad for almost 2 years because their jail time never coincided.
Up yours, you effing a-hole.
$17 sure doesn't go too far. Kevin wished his parents had jobs so they could have afforded to drink more, but that probably wasn't going to happen. Not too many people want to hire ex-convicts. Not many except for retirement homes and some cruise lines. Kevin figured they were going to have to call it a night.
I got an idea, boy. Let's you and me go find a corner store and steal all the lottery tickets. You get the car while I go in and straighten things out with that no-good jack-hump son of a bitch bouncer what just excluded us. Hit it, boy! Give me 2 cartons of smoke, some cough syrup. What kind you like, boy? Some porno magazines, don't matter which ones, and a lottery ticket. You can't aim worth a damn, boy. Here, you scratch some while I show you how it's done. Here, see if you can't flatten the bastard's tires. I got some scratching to do. Jesus H, I'm a millionaire. Give me the gun, boy. Yeah! Let's have that bottle. I aim to do some celebrating. Don't tell your old lady nothing about the dough.
Soon Kevin's dad was passed out colder than a trailer hitch enema. The old man would be asleep for a few hours, so Kevin figured he'd have plenty of time to cash the ticket and stiff the ignorant son of a bitch for his share. After all, the closest the old man ever got to $1 million was junk mail from Ed McMahon. $1 million sure was a lot of money. Kevin didn't want to be stupid and waste it all, so he took almost a whole week to spend it. It was the nicest house Kevin had ever been in, even counting the ones he'd robbed. And he had enough money left over to buy a Rolls Royce and to fill the whole barn up with cough syrup and smokes. Kevin didn't tell his parents where he was living because they were unemployed freeloaders. Kevin figured from now on, people would like him and he would fit in. Six months later, Kevin was down to his last bottle of cough syrup, and he had only half a pack of cigarettes left. So instead of thinking about getting a job, he traded the house and the car for a Texas Mickey of Rye and 3 cartons of menthol cigarettes.
Pleasure doing business with you, son. Now get the hell off my land.
Kevin didn't much like getting talked to like that, so before he left, he set the house on fire and busted out all the glass things on the car. He figured that ought to straighten things out. Kevin figured his old man would be plenty angry at him for screwing him out of $1 million, so he was pretty nervous about going home.
Hey, boy, give me a drink while you're up.
What's doing, Kev?
Kevin breathed a big sigh of relief. Charlie only came around to see his mom when the old man was in prison, so Kevin figured he'd be all right for a little while anyway. Kevin's parents wanted to get rid of him for a few weeks, so they sent him to the cheapest summer camp they could find.
Welcome to 2 weeks of hell, losers. This here's Nurse Jenkins. If you get hurt, try and find her. The cabins are over there. And this here's Karen something or other. She's another counselor working on some dorky co-op thing.
Hiya, gang. I just know we're gonna have tons of fun and become really great friends.
Yeah, whatever. And there's 4 boats by the water. 2 of them sink real easy. I can't remember which 2, but that pretty much clears itself up on its own. And this here's my girlfriend, Wendy. We'll be in our cabin most of the time, so leave us the hell alone. Unless, of course, someone's doing something I can get sued over. Now, go find something to do.
Okay, troopers, let's put our stuff away in the cabins, and then we'll all meet back here for arts and crafts.
Kevin's parents had forgotten to pack a bag for him, so he figured he'd just hang around and have a few smokes until the other kids got back. Kevin sat under a big tree and watched Karen. Kevin was kind of scared all alone at camp, but then something occurred to him. No one at the camp knew Kevin, so he figured if he behaved himself and tried really hard to be friendly, then he would fit in and people would like him.
You guys are all so talented. Hey, Billy, what are you making?
It's a wallet to keep my allowance money in. I'm saving up for college.
How about you, Amber? What are you making?
I made this purse. I'm gonna send it to my mom.
She's gonna love it. You must have a great mom, 'cause she raised a great kid. Hey, Kevin, what are you working on there?
Kevin stood up and showed everyone the holster he was making. He told them it was for the gun he'd stolen from his neighbor's house.
I know. Let's break for lunch. Everyone go wash up. Kevin, can I talk to you for a minute? So you see, Kevin, that's why the other kids were put off. Guns scare them. So do people who have guns. Now, I know you want to make friends and have a good time. So why don't we clean the slate? Starting right after lunch, we'll begin to try and make the other kids less afraid of you.
Hey, lunatic, why don't you kiss her?
Kevin was about to kiss Karen when some of the other kids showed up. Kevin wasn't too happy about that, and he really wanted to hit someone, but he didn't want Karen to think he was wrong in the head. So Kevin figured he'd wait until she wasn't looking. Kevin got bored with waiting, so he pointed to the woods and screamed bear. Everyone turned around to look. The boy standing next to Kevin never saw it coming.
Karen, the gun kid punched me in the head!
Kevin had some time to think during his 2-hour timeout, and he decided that what he had done was wrong. Next time he'd go ahead and hit the kid without waiting for Karen to turn around, because he figured he'd get caught either way, and the way Kevin had things figured, the sooner he got caught, the sooner his timeout would be over.
That's good thinking, boy. Now let's smoke.
They had a big campfire that night, and everyone sang songs and took turns telling jokes.
Hey, Kevin, do you have a joke that you'd like to tell?
Kevin was really scared. He didn't like speaking in front of other people, but because he wanted everyone to like him, he decided he would try his best. Kevin stood up and told a joke he'd overheard his father telling Uncle Mike about how many lesbians it took to change a light bulb. That pretty much set the tone for the rest of camp. It was the night before Parents' Day, and Kevin was alone in his cabin because all the other kids had moved to the other cabins because they were afraid to sleep in the same room as Kevin. That suited Kevin just fine, because he was getting pretty sick of listening to them complain about his smoking and drinking. Kevin couldn't sleep, so he decided to go over to Karen's cabin and see if she would go steady with him. He was having a hard time getting there because he was pretty jimmied up on cough syrup and kept falling down. The last time he fell, he rolled down a little hill and ended up on the beach right beside Karen. She was making out with Frankie. Kevin told Frankie to get his hands the hell off his girl. Frankie and Karen just laughed. Then Frankie told him to take a hike and called him a useless little freak. Kevin wandered back to his cabin. He was really sad because he'd been sure Karen liked him, and it hurt a whole lot finding out she didn't. So Kevin set her cabin on fire. He figured that ought to straighten things out. He was going to use the fire to light a smoke, but then he realized he was all out. It was Parents' Day, and Kevin was real jumpy from nicotine withdrawal. He hoped his parents would get there soon so he could bum a smoke from his mom. By about noon, Kevin was beginning to wonder if his parents were going to bother coming at all. He was pretty testy, and all the other kids and their parents pretty much left him alone. Kevin was just about to give up hope when a taxi pulled in.
I got no money, so F off!
Where's my sugar? Here, boy, come and see Mama. Where's my boy, damn it?
Jesus, look out! He's into the smoke!
You leave him be. He's just a boy.
Shut your trap, cow.
Up yours, convict.
You got a problem here, and I'll fix it for you.
The only problem I got is I'm married to an impotent son of a bitch.
You just crossed the line, fatty.
Come on, boy. Let's get some lunch. Yeah, I didn't figure you'd make too many friends. They all look like a bunch of knobs anyhow. So screw 'em. What's the matter? You ain't never heard a lady pass gas? Mama's got a tinkle. Go steal the nurse's car and meet over by the outhouse. I wants to get going so's I don't miss Springer. Why, Jesus, we forgot about your father.
Any of you a-holes got a smoke?
I was going through your files again last night, Kevin, when I stumbled across this marriage certificate. I think your attempt at establishing a nuclear family of your own is extremely relevant in terms of our understanding of the influence your parents' marriage had on your development. I think it would aid our efforts to fix your brain if we dissect the underlying issues of your attempt at holy matrimony. What do you think?
Kevin was 16 years old, and he'd just been released from juvenile detention. Kevin was really happy to be free, so he decided to celebrate by getting bent out of shape on cough syrup. He didn't have any money though, but he figured that's what shoplifting was for. It had taken Kevin almost 7 hours to violate his parole. He was pretty proud of himself because that was a record for him. Kevin didn't much feel like going home, so he figured he'd wander around downtown a little bit and maybe break into a store or two. About halfway through filling up a bag full of new releases, Kevin remembered that his mom had pawned the VCR to get a tattoo of David Hasselhoff put on her ass. That meant that Kevin would have to steal a VCR too. That sounded a whole lot like work to him, so Kevin figured he'd just break into the store anytime he wanted to watch a movie. Maybe it was just the cough syrup talking, but Kevin sure liked the idea of marrying a prostitute. So he figured he'd clean out the till, steal a car, and go find a hooker. He'd heard that you could get married in Mexico without your parents' consent. So the way Kevin saw things, it was pretty much a perfect plan.
Hurry up, you broken-headed freak. The cops are gonna be looking for the car. Now, how about her? Hey, she's pretty. Come on, just pick one.
Marriage was a pretty big step, and Kevin didn't want to rush things. He was almost ready to give up when he saw her.
What you in the mood for, lover?
Kevin told her he wanted to take her to Mexico and marry her. The hooker wasn't too big on getting hitched, but Mexico sure sounded nice, and she figured Kevin was good for the cash because he'd been able to afford such an expensive car. As hookers go, she wasn't one of the smarter ones.
Hey, get up! Kevin! Let's get some tequila and go to the beach, man! Hey, idiot boy! Give me some money! Ain't you ever heard of being a provider? You dumb unemployed son of a bitch!
Kevin didn't have much money left, and he wasn't about to share it. So he pretended to be asleep for the next 3 hours until his wife got really bored and angry and left. That was okay by Kevin, because married life hadn't been much fun since he'd come down off the cough syrup.
Your old lady's at the beach turning tricks for drinks and smokes. She took me for half a pack, but I guess you knew that, being omnipresent and what have you. I've been following you since you got out of juvie on account of you being the Lord and all. You want to get some food?
Kevin hadn't expected to see his multiple personality psychotic best friend in Mexico, but he was glad he was there. There were a lot of scary-looking people around, and Kevin was nervous. Besides, Pete always had plenty of smokes.
Sure, she's nice and all and good-looking too. Not saying that. It's just that, well, I figured you being who you are, you could have gotten just about any girl. Hey, Pedro! The Son of God wants another margarita?
Kevin was bored just sitting around with Pete, so he asked him for $50, then told him to go smite some infidels for a few hours. Kevin figured that ought to straighten things out. It had been a long time since Kevin had his hands on that kind of money, so he decided to celebrate by getting a big tattoo on his back.
Hey, senor, I put a naked lady on you. Big breasts on her, with a sword and a unicorn, just like a van. How about for you?
Kevin didn't like any of the pictures. He was about to leave when he spotted a sign on the telephone pole outside of the tattoo parlor. It was the toughest and meanest looking dog Kevin had ever seen, and he figured people would think he was really cool and want to hang out with him if he had it tattooed on his back. By the time Kevin found out that the man working at the tattoo parlor didn't understand English real well, it was too late. Kevin wasn't too happy, so he hit the man right across the back of the head with a chair and knocked him out cold. Then Kevin took off the man's shirt and tattooed "I'm a big dumb fag" on his stomach. He figured that ought to learn the ignorant prick a thing or two.
Just a minute, boss. Thanks for letting me spite them folks.
Kevin had had his fill of Mexico and married life. Things hadn't quite worked out the way he thought they would, so he decided that if he ever got the chance, he'd kick the sweet holy hell out of the guy who wrote Pretty Woman. Slappy Bigelow had violated his parole and was back in prison. He was Kevin's arch nemesis because Kevin had taken over control of the prison's black market trade by having Pete give the bastard a real good once-over. Slappy told everyone that he was going to return the favor. Normally, Kevin would have just commanded Pete to take care of it, but Pete was in the psychiatric ward because he thought he was a 1957 John Deere tractor. Kevin figured it'd be best to just stay out of Slappy's way until Pete's medication kicked in and he came back. Slappy had other plans.
That's the stupidest tattoo I've ever seen.
Run, you twisted little facko!
Kevin took off as fast as he could, but he slipped on the wet floor and fell back and cracked his head. Slappy wasn't too happy because he'd really been looking forward to hitting Kevin with the t-shirt full of soap bars. Then Slappy got to thinking, just because Kevin was out cold, there was no reason he couldn't bust him a few real stiff ones across the head anyway, just for kicks.
Kevin Spencer.
Something's wrong with that kid.
Kevin Spencer.
His head don't work, it never did.
Kevin Spencer.
You better not cross the path.
Kevin Spencer.
He's a king smoking alcoholic sociopath.
Sociopath.
Something's wrong with that kid.
Kevin Spencer.
His head don't work, it never did.
Kevin Spencer.
You better not cross his path.
Kevin Spencer.
He's a chain-smoking alcoholic sociopath.
Step right up. Come one, come all. Everyone's a winner.
Ah, what a beautiful morning. Dew glistening on the dumpsters as the smell.
Stupendous.
Ach du Liebe. Kevin, I've been thinking of your brief marriage to the prostitute when you were 16, as well as the relationship you had with your mother growing up. I think that if we further explore the root of your discomfort and awkwardness in dealing with women, we might better be able to steer you down the road of self-recovery. Ow! Bad thing, Kevin. Bad thing. Don't make me call the guards.
Kevin backed off because lately the guards had been using mace. The old-fashioned kind.
Okay, Kevin. Can you tell me a little about some of your initial experience with girls?
Kevin was 13 years old, and he'd just been invited to his first birthday party. There were going to be some girls there, and he was pretty nervous. He'd overheard some kids at school who said it was going to be a makeout party. Kevin wasn't sure what making out was, so he figured he'd better ask his mom and dad before he went, so he wouldn't look like a moron in front of all the other kids. Kevin waited until his dad had to reload before he asked him how to make out. Kevin's dad wasn't sure what to say. This was the first of the boy's formative life experiences that he hadn't slept through. He decided to give Kevin the loving guidance of his years of experience.
First, you go downtown and pick a hooker. Then you do it. But make sure you do it before you pay. Otherwise, she'll just call her pimp and have him work you over a bit and rip you off. That's how your Uncle Phil got the big scar on his head.
Kevin asked what you should do if the girl you were going to make out with wasn't a prostitute.
Helps to get her loaded. Just don't pick a girl who holds her booze like your old lady. Otherwise, it'll end up costing you way more than a hooker. And since most hookers is better looking, that's a bum deal.
Kevin asked his dad if he'd ever been in love.
I think I loved your old lady once. Whenever I heard that sloshing sound when she danced, it brought a lump to my throat.
Oh, baby.
The lump Percy was talking about was when his mom socked him a real sweet one in the larynx for stiffing her with the bar tab. Kevin thought that maybe his mom might have better advice about girls, but he didn't know where she was and had to wait for his dad to empty his clip to ask.
She's passed out in the back seat of the car. I'm surprised she ain't woke up yet. Let me pump a few rounds in to shake her out of it.
Where the Christ am I? How's about making Mama some dinner too? Thanks, boy.
Mom had slept off most of her afternoon booze and hadn't really gotten started on her evening booze, so she was still pretty sober.
Mommy just drinks 'cause it helps her forget her family.
Kevin figured now was as good a time as any to ask her how to make out with a girl and be romantic.
Who is it?
Special delivery.
I really like the flower arrangement, but I'd love to check out your gift basket.
Kevin asked his mother what this had to do with romance.
Didn't you see him give her the flowers? And look, he's helping her stand on the rocking chair.
Then he asked his mother what she considered romantic.
Me? I like to get real tanked up and close my eyes and pretend it's not your father, 'cause he's not very good at it. I think of someone sexier. Oh,
Kevin thought that Mom was jumping the gun a little because she was talking about going all the way. So he asked her how he should act on a first date.
I pretty much gone all the way on every date I ever had. Even sometimes when it wasn't a date. You know, like when you want something you ain't got money for. But don't go too quick. And put a coat down so as you don't wreck the car seats.
Kevin was pretty sure that what his mom and dad were telling him was wrong. So he figured he'd just wing it and use common sense. It never occurred to Kevin that if he had any common sense, he never would have bothered asking his parents about sex in the first place. Kevin's stomach was full of butterflies and cough syrup. He was hoping the cough syrup would make him more confident, but it didn't seem to be working. So he switched to rye and had a few smokes just to take the edge off. All the other kids going to the party looked really cool and popular.
Hi, you must be one of David's friends. All the other kids are down in the rec room.
David's dad was real nice. Because he was a recovering cross-addicted substance abuser who acknowledged a higher power and accepted life's obstacles.
This is a no-smoking house, you little freak.
Kevin didn't much like David's mom. He figured she could benefit from a good kick in the ass.
Tell her to kick your ass, boy.
Kevin decided he'd shake their hands and act polite instead, so they wouldn't think he was an ignorant idiot. Kevin really wanted to make a good impression, but he must have been a whole lot drunker than he thought, because when he stuck out his hand, he just kept going and fell right off the porch. All the kids sure looked like they were having fun dancing. Kevin really wanted to join in, but he was pretty sure things wouldn't work out the way they did in his head. So he just stood in the corner drinking. That was the kind of thing that made a lot of sense to Kevin. Kevin didn't like to do a lot of things without smoking, especially drinking. So he figured he'd sneak into the laundry room and have a few. When Kevin came back out, the music had stopped and everyone was sitting in a circle around a bottle. When Kevin asked how you played, all the girls giggled and some of them pointed at him. Kevin figured he'd better laugh along with them so they wouldn't think he was mentally retarded.
All you do is spin the bottle. When it stops spinning, you have to kiss whoever it's pointing at.
Kevin hoped his spin didn't point at Marty Graham, mostly because he didn't have a real good handle on the rules of the game. Marty secretly wished Kevin would spin the bottle towards him, mostly for reasons he wouldn't come to terms with until his late 20s.
Slipper the tongue, Spencer.
I'd puke for sure.
Kevin thought his first kiss had gone pretty well. It was his turn to spin the bottle, but before he could,
From now on, the two people have to go in the closet together for 5 whole minutes.
Kevin didn't like closets because he had to sleep in one for 5 years when he was a kid because his parents had rented out his room to some prostitutes. But he figured he'd smile and nod his head so all his new friends wouldn't think he wasn't cool. Kevin remembered what David's mom had said, and he was pretty nervous. He didn't know how to make the first move.
If you try and French kiss me, I'm gonna scream.
Kevin took a good luck drag off his smoke and went for it. He kissed her right on the mouth. Then something strange happened in his pants, and he got really scared. Kevin wasn't sure what to do, so he ran out of the closet right quick.
Spencer's afraid of girls.
I bet he's never even kissed a girl before.
He likes boys, I bet. Kevin is a boy liker. Kevin is a boy liker.
All the kids joined in and made fun of Kevin. Then David told him that they'd only invited him as a prank. Kevin was pretty cheesed off. He didn't much like being made fun of in front of the girl he loved and was going to marry. David told Kevin to drag his sorry loser ass home. The walk up the stairs was the longest walk of Kevin's life.
Learn them son of a bitches some manners, boy. You ain't gotta take that.
Kevin thought Alan made pretty good sense. So before he left, he stole $80 from the dresser drawer in David's parents' bedroom, then he took all the frozen meat out of the freezer and set the kitchen curtains on fire. Considering he'd already spiked the party punch with his cough syrup, he figured that ought to straighten things out.
That's good effing meat, boy.
Too bad you ain't never been that good a provider.
Put a lid on it, Porky.
Shut your goddamn face, you stupid bastard!
Kiss my ass, you ugly slob.
Mr. Franklin and Warden Rifkin thought it would do Kevin some good to learn a trade. Kevin didn't figure it made a whole lot of sense, since he was doing life, and because if he ever did get out, he was pretty sure no one would give him a job anyway, because he was an alcoholic sociopath who liked to steal things. All the prison officials were worried, because they didn't want Kevin doing anything that involved tools or machinery. They'd all learned the hard way to keep sharp things and blunt instruments out of Kevin's reach. About the only job that left for Kevin was working as the prison librarian.
That ain't no job for a man.
I hear you boys working in the library.
He ain't fruity.
You find most of your librarians as women.
You'd best think about straightening out your boy, Percy.
Percy tried to defend his son as best he could, but the only book he'd ever seen is the one the police threw at him before locking his white trash ass away. Uncle Phil was doing time for robbing the orphans fund, and even he figured Kevin was giving the Spencers a bad name.
He ain't never had no girlfriend, so it might just be that he is.
His head just broke is all. He don't know no better.
It's your job to teach him.
Keep your effing nose the hell out of my family business.
Punch him in the face, Percy! Jesus, I think he's dead.
Let's get out of here.
Kevin thought being a librarian was a pretty easy job, especially since he didn't give a damn about putting books back where they were supposed to go or keeping track of who took a book out. And besides, Kevin had decided that reading would be his new favorite hobby, at least for a while.
Remember your life garden, Kevin? Let's continue planting the happy seeds.
The only happy seeds Kevin knew were the ones the guards found in Uncle Mike's ashtrays while crossing the Mexican border.
I'd like to talk about your mother today. She seemed to be a yin and yang personality. One moment cold and uncaring, the next moment overcome with mothering instinct and emotion spurned by guilt. Now, are there any particular instances where her desire to be a good mother had a negative impact on your id?
Hey, what month is it anyway?
I'm wearing my yellow jockey, so it must be August.
You don't own yellow jockeys.
I do now.
The boys got school coming.
Great, when he's gone, we can have the nooners in the kitchen, just like the old days.
Oh, yes, baby. Come here, baby. Come and see Mama. Bring me that bottle on your way. You and me, we's gonna have a family muttering Sunday. I'm gonna take the boy to get school clothes.
We ain't got no money for clothes.
Mama won bingo last night. We're sitting sweet, baby.
Then bring home some takeout and smoke.
Don't look at nothing what ain't on the sales rack, 'cause you ain't getting it. Nah, two per officer-ish. Nah, looks like you fouled your pants or something. Oh God, no! That's way too fruity. Jesus Lord, you look like a little freak. Hey everybody, look how dumb my boy looks.
Kevin didn't much like shopping for school clothes. He liked it even less when a bunch of his classmates walked in and saw him. Everyone pointed and laughed. Kevin thought that was unfair, so he took one of the kids from school aside and explained how he felt to him. Kevin was pretty sure none of the kids would ever laugh at him again.
Oh yeah, he'll wear it home. Wait till the old man sees this. He'll piss himself laughing. Come on, boy. Hey, look at my boy's clothes. Funny, ain't they?
Kevin had hoped Alan would step in and help him out, but his imaginary friend wasn't of much use.
Don't he look dumb?
Sing us a song, Shirley Temple. Hey, you forgot to take out and smokes.
I ain't your slave, you dumb slob.
Up yours, cow. My head. Ain't nothing wrong with my head.
I sense a great deal of hostility towards me. Is it because you view me as the enemy? Or perhaps because you feel a little frightened by doctors and the assumed authority of the position, and somehow feel threatened, which creates a fear which in turn manifests itself in outward verbalizations of hostility?
Kevin's dad didn't know what the hell Mr. Franklin was talking about, but just in case it was a threat or a come-on, the old man figured he'd drift him a real sweet one in the neck with his coffee cup, just to make sure.
The apple sure doesn't fall far from the tree now, does it?
I thought you was getting fruity on me.
No, I mean your son's violent reflexive responses to authority are similar to yours.
Apples give me diarrhea.
I'd like to discuss your own fears and the impact they had on Kevin.
Percy knew he was a bad parent and didn't want to talk about it with Mr. Franklin. Once he played hide and seek with Kevin, and while the boy was counting, he packed up and moved 300 miles away.
I would also like you to stop burning holes in my couch with your cigarette. And now about your fears of Kevin growing up, as you put it, fruity.
Kevin's dad was worried his boy might go fruity because the old lady kept taking him to the mall clothes shopping. So he decided to take the boy away from drinking and smoking in front of the TV and instill some manly virtues in him by teaching him how to drink and smoke by a lake.
The first rule of fishing is always push the car down the block before you start it. So's your lard-ass old lady don't wake up and make you for cleaning out her purse. Okay, boy. Go through all the garages that ain't locked until you find us some fishing poles. Don't be shy about taking booze if you find any. Daddy'll wait here. Go, boy, go!
Finally, Kevin found something he was sure the old man would like. A boat.
Good eye finding this boat, boy. God's ashtray. Hump this cooler down to the lake, then go find some damn worms. I gotta take a leak. This ain't working worth crap. You wait here, boy. I got an idea.
Why don't you drink faster so you and me can take a little fun ride in your fractured head?
Kevin figured that would be a whole lot more fun than fishing, so he banged back a few quick ones of gin and threw in some cough syrup just to smooth out the edges. Kevin figured that ought to straighten things out.
Jesus, boy, you really got into it. Lucky for you, you didn't touch Daddy's rye. Here, grab a stick. You and me's gonna learn them son of a bitch fish a thing or two about sportsmanship. Now haul that boat in the water. Give her, boy!
Kevin's dad was so stewed, he stood up in the boat, dropped a lit stick of dynamite, and fell ass over elbow into the water. Kevin's dad flew almost 100 feet before he landed in a tree. Unfortunately, the tree was already burning from a brush fire started by Percy's smoke. So it toppled over, sending him through the roof of the nearby hillbilly shack, where he was beaten and sodomized for hours. That was the kind of thing that would have upset most men, but because Percy had been in and out of prison so many times, it was pretty much business as usual. A few hours later, Kevin found his dad in a nearby ditch.
And that's what fishing's all about, boy. Come on, let you and me find something more fun to explode. Now! Take the wheel, Kev. I got some blowing up to do. Hard left, boy. Don't throw no boo. Sweet. Oh, dear.
Kevin Spencer.
Something's wrong with that kid.
Kevin Spencer.
His head don't work, it never did.
Kevin Spencer.
You better not cross his path.
Kevin Spencer.
He's a king smoking alcoholic sociopath.
Sociopath.
Something's wrong with that kid.
Kevin Spencer.
His head don't work, it never did.
Spencer.
You better not cross his path.
Kevin Spencer.
He's a chain-smoking alcoholic sociopath.
Mr. Franklin, the prison psychiatrist, was on a 6-month sabbatical. He'd had a nervous breakdown because Kevin kept setting his office on fire and throwing stuff at him. Kevin thought it was cool being able to hurt someone's brain without using a tire iron. He decided he'd try it more often.
Get the hell away from my brother's book, you snot-nosed little bastard!
Kevin was confused. The new psychiatrist looked just like Mr. Franklin, but he didn't seem quite as liberal. Kevin thought he'd do what he was told until he figured things out, which was probably going to take a good long time because Kevin was the kind of kid who rode the short school bus to class. Kevin's brain was special, in an Olympic kind of way.
My brother's in the nut house because of you. I'm his identical twin in all ways but one. I don't take crap from dumb pricks like you.
Kevin figured he'd bide his time before he taught the new Mr. Franklin that he didn't like being called names.
My brother says you killed your dog when you were 8. Big surprise. A twisted freak obsessed with death. Go on. Tell me how you got so hot on death. Maybe that'll shed some light on why you're such a dysfunctional failure.
Ashes to ashes, and dust to dust.
You wanna step it up a bit, Reverend? I gotta take a leak so bad my teeth is swimming.
Me too, Padre.
Kevin's great Aunt Betty had died. Kevin had never met her because she lived far away and because she had restraining orders against his parents, preventing them from coming within 500 feet of her.
Let us not remember Aunt Betty for the self-inflicted gunshot wound which took her life, but instead for her amazing talent with an accordion.
Kevin's parents had applied for special permission from the courts so they could attend the funeral and see if they got anything in the will.
Lousy cheapskates screwed us. Serves her right dying.
This funeral sucks. Let's go.
Hold your horses, Tubby. I ain't had enough free sandwiches. Besides, this here's a real nice place. Maybe Betty's gonna leave us something after all. Hey boy, come here. Go tell the effing knob who owns this house that you gotta go to the John. Get inside, grab as much jewelry as you can. Meet us back at the punch bowl.
You think I'm Tubby?
You can stand to lose a few.
Kevin didn't mind being told to rob the house, since he was planning on doing it anyway. Besides, if he was the one doing the stealing, he figured he could keep anything really valuable for himself and screw his parents for their cut.
Just to loosen the arseholes up some.
Good thinking, Boise. Let's get this party rolling.
Kevin was surprised at how rich his relatives were. They sure did have a lot of precious heirlooms. Then Kevin found something even more precious. Aunt Betty's medicine cabinet. A rich person's medicine cabinet is a candy store of pharmaceuticals. And Kevin could sure tell that his aunt must have had a lot of personal issues. Kevin wondered why his family had a lot less than his relatives. Dad blamed the immigrants, feminists, and homosexuals, but Kevin wasn't so sure. Mostly because those were big words, and he didn't have a real good handle on what they meant. Also, Aunt Betty's candy was kicking in.
Hurry up and get more stuff, you jug-eared psychopath!
Kevin didn't like being called names, especially by his imaginary friend, Alan the Magic Goose. Because that pretty much meant that Kevin was calling himself names. Thinking about how that could happen on a metaphysical level made Kevin's brain hurt.
Let it go, moron. You ain't got the smarts to figure it out.
Kevin had had it up to his ass with the goose. When Alan first showed up, Kevin thought it was cool to always have someone around to talk to. But Alan was wearing kind of thin and wasn't a cool delusion like the son of Sam's dog. Kevin figured he'd show the son of a bitch Alan a thing or two. He decided to beat the goose out of his head.
Is that the best you got, lunatic? I don't think so, you alcoholic little delinquent. It, you dumb boy. Hey, here's an idea. Why don't you get your old man's gun and shoot me out? What do you think of that, genius?
Kevin was peaking on prescriptions and suffering a mild concussion. It was a pretty good buzz. He decided he'd just have to live with Alan and went to get the jewelry and finish cleaning out the bedroom.
You guys sure you don't want no liquor?
I hardly think this is the time or place to get drunk.
2 p.m. by my watch. Come on, let's chug one for Betty.
Don't even say her name, Percy. We all saw you digging through her pockets during the viewing of the deceased.
Why don't you and your family just go home?
Yeah, well, why don't you and your family kiss my fat ass?
You're acting like this is a party. Betty is dead. All of us are trying to come to terms with that, and then you and your brood show up and ruin it for everyone.
Buffet's open, boys. Yeehaw!
Good one, Ma. Give him a hair pie for dessert.
Yeehaw!
Oh, Jesus. Look out. She's going down. She's going down.
What in God's name are you doing?
Run, Thaco, run!
After about 10 minutes, it occurred to Kevin that there was only one door, and he wasn't going to be able to run away.
I want you out of here. I want you, your thievy little brat of a son, and your fat drunk wife out of here.
Come again, arsehole.
You're in for it now.
You don't scare me.
What did you call me?
A fat alcoholic.
You kicked him like a bad habit, sweetie.
You're the only bad habit I can't kick, sweetie. Come on, boys. I can tell when we're not wanted.
Kevin was confused. On TV, people always cried at funerals because they were sad. It was strange because Aunt Betty's funeral was the most fun he'd had in years, especially because no one found the big diamond ring he'd hidden in his pocket.
Welcome to the show. I'd like to introduce my guests. On the left is Donald.
Hi.
Shut your hole, you son of a bitch!
That was a good episode.
Get in the car. No time to pack. Gotta go now.
What'd you do this time? Why is there blood and teeth all over the upholstery? Whose artificial arm is stuck to the passenger door?
I just figured we needed a vacation on account of working so hard.
We ain't got no money for no vacation.
We got $50,000 is what we got.
Holy Jesus. You didn't do nothing illegal, did you?
Daring daylight robbery.
I found it.
An unidentified assailant robbed a local bookie of $50,000.
Eat your dinner, boy.
Paid you look.
Where the hell is we going, anyhow?
I don't Christly know. I didn't plan too much, so decided just getting going.
Hey, let's go to Vegas.
Can't. I got warrants out in Nevada.
Atlantic City?
I got warrants.
Daytona Beach?
You got warrants.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin asked his parents if they could go to Ratland. The kids at school said it was really fun.
Sorry, boy. Me and the old man got a lifetime ban. Last time we was there, we got pretty tight and had a run-in with the rodent.
He come on to me, so I worked him. I kicked the suspenders right off that four-fingered freak.
As vacations go, Kevin thought this sucked and proceeded to vomit with disapproval and motion sickness.
It don't look open.
Then we'll open it. I promised my boy a pony ride, and I'll be damned if he ain't getting one.
Scurvy Taylor was the rubber band man working at the freak show. He'd been napping when Percy crashed the gate.
What the? You must be the new act. I'm Scurvy, the rubber man.
Oh, can you bend everything like that?
You must be new to the sideshow. What's your talent?
Pull my finger.
No time for that. I promised the boy a pony ride, and I'll be a son of a bitch if that ain't what he's gonna get.
That ain't a horse.
It's close enough for the boy. Go, stupid cow.
It ain't going.
I got eyes, fatty.
Go get with something.
Get going, you stupid horse.
It's a cow.
Put a lid on it. I'm pretending for the boy. I need something better to poke it with.
The old man was knocked out cold. Kevin's mom laughed so hard that she started to hyperventilate and passed out. Scurvy took the suitcase with the $50,000. Kevin didn't want to see Mr. Franklin's brother, so he decided to go into hiding and try and avoid him. But because Kevin was in a 10 by 12 concrete cell with nothing in it but a cot, the whole hiding thing didn't work out quite as well as he had hoped.
Where are you taking the freak? To see Franklin's brother about making some sense out of his defective head.
It's like putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound.
Time was running out, so Kevin figured he'd better come up with a plan real quick, so he wouldn't have to go see Mr. Franklin's brother. Kevin's parole officer, the family court judge, and the school board, in a 4-3 vote, decided to let Kevin back into school, on the condition that he abstained from drinking and tried to get involved in school activities. Everyone thought this would help Kevin develop better people skills and mainstream him back into society. Kevin decided he'd join the choir, because all you had to do was stand around and pretend to sing.
Welcome, everyone. I hope you're all as excited as I am about what will be, God willing, our most successful choir season ever. Now, how does that make everyone feel?
We do it for the love of music, but more importantly because, well, you do need this credit to graduate.
Kevin, what were you told about smoking?
Watching the other kids warm up would have made Kevin laugh, if he'd been born with the ability to feel and express emotions. Since he wasn't, the sounds pretty much just got on his nerves, especially the ones coming out of Jimmy Thompson's mouth. Kevin was about to straighten that out when the choir director called for everyone's attention. It occurred to Kevin that just because you can't do something right away doesn't mean you can't do it at all. That made Kevin feel happier.
Wonderful. I feel like I've died and gone to heaven with my little angels. If the soloists sound half as good as that, then I think we've really got a good shot at winning the all-city choir competition and really sticking it to those ignorant bastards from St. Joseph's Academy. Righty-ho, we'll audition the soloists in alphabetical order, beginning with Donna Bertram.
I vow to thee, my country, vow to thee, my country.
It was going to be a while before they got to the S's, and Kevin was pretty nervous, so he figured he'd sneak backstage and cure his stage fright with some cough syrup.
Ladies and gentlemen, Hathaway Cough Syrup and Rabid Dog Cigarettes proudly present an international recording event, the Kevin Spencer Jazz Funk Apocalypse, featuring on drums, Pete Lefty Wilcox. On the guitar, Alan the Magic Goose. bass guitar, a fire-breathing demon that is a manifestation of Kevin's rage at the world. And now, put your hands together and welcome Kevin Spencer!
Spencer? 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 Kevin Spencer? Where the hell is that little sociopath?
Kevin was scared. He'd never tried to sing before, especially in front of other people. He was as nervous as his first time showering in prison. Part of him wanted to run away, but the part of him that wanted to be popular and fit in told him to go for it.
I'm waiting.
I vow to thee, my country, all earthly things above, and tare and whole and perfect, the service of my love,
Kevin, how did you learn to sing like that?
Kevin tried to remember when he'd ever made such beautiful sounds.
Everyone, say hello to the star of our show.
That night at dinner, Kevin told his parents about the choir and how excited he was, and how all the other kids were impressed, and how some of them even told him he was good and talked to him and everything. The contest was coming up in a few days, and Kevin wanted to know if his parents would come.
My boy's gonna be a famous singer star, just like Babe Ruth.
You get good pay for that?
Ain't it enough the boy finally found?
Like to have eyes that could shoot laser beams and make things explode. Then he dreamed about all the things in his life that he thought could do with a good blowing up.
Okay, children, let's all take a deep breath and relax. Focus on the job at hand and be the best you can be. Kevin, how are you feeling? Perfect. We've got a few more minutes. Let's all review our lyric sheets and our song order, so when we get on stage, we can really put the screws to those stupid, ugly bastard kids from St. Joe's.
It's only a hymn singing competition. They're just kids.
Shut your son of a bitch trap, or I'll kick your face in.
That was the St. Joseph's Academy. They sing so beautiful, you hardly suspect it's a school for special kids. Anywho, next on our list of competitors is the Boys and Girls Choir of P.W. Kearney Public School, with featured soloist Kevin Spencer.
The audience, remember your cues and let's kick some ass.
Kevin was really happy and having fun, even though he was so nervous that he felt a little bit like he did when he woke up after a long night of drinking cough syrup. Kevin couldn't help taking a peek at the audience.
Watch where you're going. Ow, my head. Hey, boy. We're late because I couldn't use these tiny grade school toilets.
Would you please sit down and be quiet? This is a public school recital, for God's sakes, not a cockfight.
We couldn't find no parking, fatty.
As I was saying, the next selection will highlight our featured soloist, Kevin Spencer.
Jesus, boy. You sound like a fruit.
I think I pissed my pants.
Kevin was pretty upset. He really wanted to take a poke at his old man for embarrassing him in front of everyone. Hey, he figured it would just be easier to crank the kid beside him.
Work 'em, boy. Work 'em.
it never did. You better not cross his path.
As his body flew around the room.
All right, Spencer. Why can't you fit in? Where did the system fail you? Answer me, damn you!
It was parent-teacher night at Kevin's school, and at least one of Kevin's parents had to show up, or child welfare was going to put Kevin back into foster care. Kevin's last foster family always took an interest in him. They discussed his issues and tried to help him with his homework. Kevin didn't much care for that type of stuff because it pissed him off and usually ruined a pretty good cough syrup buzz. Kevin figured he'd better con one of his parents into going. He asked his mom, but she was too busy with her new phone sex service.
That's right, baby. I'm a sexy cheerleader. Now lather me in corn oil and call me a tramp.
Shut your hole. Sex. But since that was longer than he'd ever lasted with a woman, he decided it was better to earn money the old-fashioned way, by stealing it from your wife's purse. Kevin got an idea. He told the old man there was a blood donor clinic at school, and he'd get $5 if he came in and gave a pint.
All I gotta do is lie about the herpes, and I got me enough for smokes.
The first meeting was with Mrs. Kilborn. She had a really long list of concerns about Kevin's behavior.
Violence shouldn't be the first course of action when faced with a problem.
Percy thought about what she said. Then he remembered the last teacher's strike, when Mrs. Kilborn threw a brick at a busload of scab labor. Thinking about the man getting hit in the head with the brick made Percy laugh. Then the laughter stopped real quick, when Percy realized this wasn't a blood donor clinic after all. Percy figured he'd pop the boy a real sweet one in the head to teach him lying was wrong.
I'll parent-teacher night you freaking little a-hole.
It was a good thing for Kevin that his old man was an overweight drunk, because that meant he couldn't squeeze his fat ass out of the tiny grade school desk. The next meeting was with Kevin's gym teacher. Mr. Carty had some concerns about Kevin as well.
The boy's a loser. He's always daydreaming.
The only bars Percy cared about were the ones that... Kevin's dad bounced and bounced. Smokes, liquor, and lottery tickets filled the air. It was really fun, right up until the motion sickness kicked in. Mr. Donaldson, the woodshop teacher, was showing some other parents how to tighten the lathe.
We teach kids how to work with their hands, so they don't have to ruin society for the working man by sucking the welfare teat.
Kevin's dad hated Mr. Donaldson. They both hung out at the same strip club, but all the girls liked Mr. Donaldson better because he was employed and he kept his pants up. Percy figured Mr. Donaldson could stand to learn a lesson or two coming. The lathe pulled off his pants and his artificial leg and spun them around like a circus pinwheel. Percy laughed so hard he didn't pay attention and he kicked arse over tea kettle into the refreshments table. Percy passed out cold. When the police arrived, Kevin told him that his dad was on America's Most Hunted and got $300 for turning him in. That night, Kevin bought smokes, cough syrup, and enough sugar for every gas tank in the parking lot. Mr. Franklin thought a drug detox program might help Kevin come to terms with some of his issues. Kevin agreed to try it because he was a federally incarcerated prisoner and pretty much had to do whatever he was told. Kevin didn't like the strange, shaky people in rehab, especially his dad, whose DTs were getting so bad he could barely light his own smoke and hold on to his glass of contraband booze.
Hey boy, light daddy's smoke.
The rehab counselor asked everyone to share revealing personal stories about how they started abusing substances. That's how they ended up talking about Christmas.
and I said I wanted the red truck, but I got the blue Lego.
Daddy sold all my Christmas toys so he could get a whore. I really did see Mommy kissing Santa Claus, but not on the lips.
Then it was Kevin's turn. He told the story of how he and his dad went to church every Christmas. It was a family tradition passed down through the... First, they'd check the parked cars for tape decks. Then Dad would jimmy the lock on the church's wine cellar door. Finally, it would be time for Kevin's favorite Christmas tradition, holding open the front doors of the church while Dad hauled off a few beauty snowballs into the caroling congregation. On their way home, they passed a mall Santa Claus looking for donations. Kevin recognized the Santa as Mr. Big Ass, the school principal. Mr. Big Ass was fulfilling his court-ordered community service because the police had caught him skimming off the yearbook committee to pay for...
Help the poor? I am the poor, so F off.
When they got home, Charlie Plunt, Uncle Mike, and Uncle Frank were waiting with their usual Christmas greeting.
You owe me $37, Percy, you dumb fat bastard.
Give us the money, or we'll break your foot with this hammer.
I don't got no money, so shut up and drink a beer.
Everyone came inside and played caps for hours. They had so much fun that Percy nearly lost an eye.
Jeez, I think I'm gonna piss myself. I forgot to buy eggnog.
Don't worry, I found some next to the radiator. It's still half full.
Percy showed everyone his legendary Christmas recipe of eggnog spiked with mouthwash. Then it was time for presents.
I don't suppose you brought a Christmas tree too, you stupid dink.
Kevin's dad surprised everyone with the decorated Christmas tree air freshener he'd taken from one of the stolen cars. Kevin's mom got the t-shirt she'd always wanted, and Dad got a special present when Mom tore up the restraining order she'd had on him since St. Patrick's Day.
I got you that home entertainment system, I promised.
I didn't get you nothing, on account of we don't have the same dad.
You know, Anastasia, I don't know if it's the mouthwash or the food poisoning talking, but I'd sure like to take you over to mistletoe and slide down your chimney.
Take a chance, stud.
Charlie Plunt kissed Mom under the mistletoe. Then he kissed her under the kitchen table. When he finally kissed Mom under the apron, Percy figured he'd had enough.
That there's private parking, Plunt.
Kevin's dad slipped an ashtray into a Christmas stocking and popped Charlie a real sweet one right in the crotch.
That'll teach you not to fuck.
The party was in full swing, but Kevin wasn't having very much fun. He was wondering if there really was a Santa Claus, and if there was a true meaning to Christmas. Then he wondered what would happen if you put rifle bullets in a kitchen blender. Then he got the spins from all the booze and cough syrup and decided it was time for bed. When Kevin got to his room, he discovered Pete Wilcox had put something special in his Christmas stocking. Himself.
Maya, look what I got you for Christmas. My unflinching loyalty and servitude in the name of the Almighty. And some chocolates.
Kevin told Pete the best Christmas present he could ask for would be to have everyone in the other room shut up so he could get some sleep and wait for the real Santa.
One silent night coming up. All right, shut up, or I'll rip your arm off and beat you with the soggy end.
Soon the house was quieter than it had ever been, and Kevin slept until 3 a.m. when he was disturbed by a noise. Kevin thought that maybe it was Santa, but it was just the old man. Eggnog and mouthwash always made him sleepwalk, and he'd just pulled up a seat in the fridge to have a dump in the crisper. Christmas just didn't make any sense. Kevin headed back to the church looking for answers. When he got there, something about the nativity scene caught his attention. Maybe it was the way Principal Big Ass's car had collided with it, leaving the old fart drunk and unconscious in his Santa suit.
Holy son of a...
Since he was already passed out, Kevin figured Santa wouldn't be needing his liquor or bucket of charity money. After that, Kevin drank himself unconscious at the local landfill site. It was the best Christmas he'd ever had. Kevin was catching up on his shoplifting when he walked into the hobby section of the J-Mart store. Kevin thought if he had a hobby, he could share it with other people and they might like him. He almost had a hobby once when his dad stole a soapbox racing car from the neighbors, but before Kevin had a chance to try it out, the old man busted it up trying to outrun the cops after sticking up a liquor store. Kevin's dad wasn't too long on smarts. Just as Kevin was about to find a quiet corner to regurgitate years of shame, he noticed some model rocket engines in the hobby department. Kevin dreamed of all the neat things he could use these rockets for. Kevin was happy to finally have a hobby. He was even happier that his mom was usually so loaded that she always bought him the wrong size pants.
You with the lumpy pants. If you're not buying anything, get lost.
Kevin didn't much like being talked to like that and decided to find out where the clerk's car was parked so he could try out one of his other favorite hobbies, key stripping. But just as he was about to leave the store, he noticed something. Something in the grocery department on a can of whipped topping.
You know what that is, Taco Tripper? That's the dentist gas. The magic gas that makes the goose loose.
Kevin remembered how much Alan liked it when he wore the gas mask at the dentist, so he stuffed some of the canisters down his pants. At first, Kevin couldn't quite figure out how to get the gas out of the can without the cream. But eventually, he got the hang of it and decided this was much better than purposely overdosing on seasickness pills.
Stupendorific, my dysfunctional doppelganger!
Alan loved laughing and was pretty much just ambivalent to it because he was born without the ability to feel emotion. Still, even though he didn't feel things like Alan, he still liked the buzz more than watching television because there weren't any commercials and he didn't have to deal with the corporate agenda during his entertainment.
So you can fly, Kevin. You can fly, Kevin.
By now, Kevin had ingested enough cans of whipped cream to decorate an Italian wedding cake, which is why he figured Alan's idea made a whole lot of sense. He decided to go to school and show everyone how he could fly like a superhero. Then he'd be able to do all the things other big-time heroes did, like fighting crime, getting naked in phone booths, and kicking his sorry old man in the ass.
Hey, look! It's Santa Claus! Nah, it's Spencer. What's he doing?
Kevin told the other kids he was going to use rocket.
Whoa, now that dude is hot.
What the heck are those wires coming out of my gas tank? Hey, it's the Lumpy Pants Kid!
After the electroshock, Kevin's memory didn't work too well for a few days. This made him happy, because he had no memory of how horrible his life was or what kind of people he was related to. Everyone thought he was cured of his malevolent hatred for humanity.
You're one of the most disturbed little freaks I've ever treated, and a credit to this institution. We've decided to release you. Good
life he had, he got real angry. As he lost consciousness, Kevin wondered if he could break in and use the electroshock machine in his spare time. It was a cool buzz. Kevin had been undergoing a rigorous battery of electroshock treatments, and they had some temporary side effects. He kept forgetting what things were supposed to be used for. The shocks also made him suddenly become deathly afraid of soup. And worst of all, they were really pissing off Alan the Magic Goose. Kevin figured he'd better do his best to avoid getting the shock treatments again. Kevin went to the recreation room where the other inmates let off steam.
Hey, loser,
Something sure was weird. Something sure was weird. Kevin tried to figure out what could get Pete all pissed off like that when his old man showed up.
Hey, boy, I've been thinking after all these years I ain't been much of a dad, so I'm changing. Here's a pack of smokes and the phone numbers to all my favorite hookers. Let's be family again.
Kevin didn't understand. His old man was being real nice to him. It was starting to make him kind of sick. Then Slappy Bigelow came in.
Hey, Spencer! Why are we always fighting?
A crude knife he'd fashioned from an old toothbrush and a broken razor blade. It wasn't a Ginsu, but it could still chop 3 inmates in under a minute. This was terrible. Slappy Bigelow had cut off Kevin's head. Pete Wilcox wasn't sticking up for him anymore, and his old man seemed to care about him. But worst of all, he suddenly realized he wasn't wearing any pants. That's when he decided he must have been dreaming.
Waking up. Thought we lost you, Spencer. You were unconscious, and we thought the electricity had killed you. But obviously you survived. Guess we'd better turn the machine up.
The whole thing was a pretty cool hallucination. As he felt the current rattling his brain, Kevin started to enjoy the liberating sensation. Even Alan seemed to be adapting to the situation.
Righteous.
Kevin Spencer.
Something's wrong with that kid.
Kevin Spencer.
His head don't work, it never did.
Kevin Spencer.
You better not.
What?